All right. Let's see. Transition. All right, guys. We are here. Welcome to the Voice of All Things with your host, ParVision. Today is a fun stream right now. So if you guys didn't know, I was just on Roger's Basis stream for his 1064 reaction. And let me just tell you, that was one of the most fun reaction streams I've been in. You guys know I've been in a bunch of them. And like seeing Roger jump up and down every single page, I was just like, this is how I felt. So it was definitely great seeing that. Hopefully you guys can see me. I'm sure there's a lot of new people coming in right now. So Roger will be back in a second. He's doing, Roger things at the moment. Wait, hold on. I just messed up there we go. Yeah, let me know. Also, the music might be a little quiet for you guys. It's a little bit of music. Summer mood. I might turn it down when Roger comes just in case, but Roger's very loud, so I should be able to hear him regardless. No way you were on Roger's stream making your way up in the world. Yeah, I was on Roger's stream earlier, and this is just a continuation into the One Piece conversation, 1064, but then also typically on the Voice of All Things. And I'll save some of the explanation for when Roger's here. But the plan essentially is for us to talk about 1064 and then some mini theories that I saved. We talked about, there's so much to talk about in regards to what happened in the chapter that we didn't even get to all of it, and we're definitely going to now. I got to drop the stronger is rocks theory on Roger's base, and let me just tell you, his reaction was it was too funny because it was like what I expected, but funnier because he straight up muted me, which was like hilarious because I feel like when I posted it on TikTok, a lot of people are like, nah. And then they came onto my YouTube video for it. And then they were like, I doubted it. But then you hit me with the last detail. And I was like, okay. And so like, it was definitely fun to see that. And that's that's why I premiere all my theories, because I like participating with you guys, your reactions. Because then I script my videos in a little bit slightly different way so that it's more fun to watch, if that makes sense. Like I like imagining some of these points in my videos, like, oh, this is gonna make them smile, this is gonna make them laugh, this is gonna make it memorable, right? And so that's like the biggest place. So if you guys like having fun, like the theories, whatever, serious, lighthearted, whatever it is, definitely tune in and join those premieres because I love seeing how you guys react to it. Whether or not the theory is true or not, I think what I enjoyed by it was all the happiness that came from it after the fact. So that being said,
by the way, it's definitely not true. 100% definitely not true. Stronger is not Roxy Civic.
And we got Roger here, and he was like, I was thinking that you weren't listening this whole time.
No, of course. These are my wireless headphones, obviously.
Oh, right.
So I'm good. I'm walking around making my tea. I know you've seen this already. This is that Papicoa syrup that I use whenever I'm doing a live stream.
Yes, I told them about.
It's amazing for your voice. Oh my god.
I put a winky face after telling them Roger's getting his throat coat.
That's literally what I'm doing. I have my tea right here. I've got my little Papicoa packet, and then you just shoot it. You basically grab your scissors, go like this.
Roger on stream, doing the greatest right now.
My routine. Yeah. Butcher bee by the bay by 10. All right, we got. Got it. Good. Let that coat. Get a sip of this.
Dan, we're seeing the Roger process here right now.
I'm ready. I'm good. Let's go.
All right.
Go. Round 2, baby. We still got 100 today. This is my second of 3. I'm good.
I'm excited. I want to, I'm going to read it too. I don't know if I'll be able to catch your stream for it. But you're honestly a menace for being able to do this so often. I mean, when I got, the timing of this stream, the Voice of All Things. So to let you in on the naming of it. So Voice of All Things, obviously a One Piece thing. What we typically do here is do some theory crafting thing. But in general, what I like doing with this Sunday stream is giving it a breath of fresh air from the chapter, because everyone already talks about the chapter so much. I have a live reaction. You have a live reaction. Anytime between Thursday and Sunday, it's people talking about the chapter so much that it's like there's so much more to One Piece to talk about. And so I pick like a topic or theme or something, or sometimes I bring on a guest, and I call that a Buster Call guest, because the way I see it is like, you know, as a theorist, is I try to figure out like what the end of One Piece is, or think about the end of One Piece. And the best theorist in One Piece, or the best One Piece theorist, do you know who it is?
The best One Piece theorist?
Yeah, this is a trick question.
I genuinely like your stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not saying that because I'm on your thing. We've talked about this on the previous Reverie too. I think your stuff is great. Because I think there's too many people who, like, for as much as we were clowning about the Roxy Zebek thing and the Stronger thing, I appreciate that you take the risks. Because I feel like people don't do that now that we're so close to the end.
Yeah.
And I feel people are so stuck with their headcanon ideas of like what's going to happen now based off of years and years and years of theory crafting on YouTube. And I do genuinely feel like you are very different from the rest of the pack. So I actually, and I'm also going to be completely real with you. I've said this before. I've said this to Joy Boy. I've said this to everybody. I don't watch YouTube videos about One Piece. I don't. I straight up don't.
Right.
I will go watch reaction. I'm subscribed to all my friends, obviously, because I want to support you guys. But like, I go and I watch reaction videos after I've read the chapter. If it's one that like I really want to see someone's reaction to it, so I'll go watch like yours or Tekking's or Brago's or whatever. King of Lightning's, of course. But when it comes to theories, I literally don't watch theories at all.
Yeah, right.
The only time, other than you, funnily enough, that a theory kind of like works its way into my sub box is Grand Line. You two are kind of the only two that I ever see in my sub box in terms of theories. Everything else is kind of like reaction content or review discussions or things like that. So
right.
Yeah.
So like, honestly, you had me a little bit broken there, because I wasn't expecting you to say me, especially considering how, you know, long you've been in the space. But it was a trick question, but now I'm glad I asked it that way.
What was the question?
The best One Piece theorist is technically Professor Clover, because he had the theory. Yeah.
Sure.
And so what happened to him is he got Buster called for his theory. So that's why I say, like, I Buster call the people onto the street. But, you know, I'm fine with being Professor Clover for a long time.
I actually meant you. Yeah, of course. For sure. I meant it. Yeah. Because I feel like most things that do well on YouTube nowadays, too, I guess a little bit of inside baseball, are not theory videos. I feel like the community for a time was all theory videos all day, every day. Like, I'd say 2015, 2016, theories were what got you the views, right? Like, that was the era of One World HD getting like 1.5 million every single video with a theory video. You had Alpha 2 Late 17, like, just regurgitating theories. It seemed like every single week with the same L theme from Death Note playing in the background. And, like, that was the meta. That's why like I started doing theory videos in the first place, was because other people were doing it. And now theory videos are not the meta. People do not want that. People want their general like top 5 devil fruit videos. They want like power scaling. They want stuff that like I don't do.
Right.
Or they want reaction content, which is why we all do live reactions and do our reviews. But the meta is not the same now as it was way back in the day.
Yeah, which is like fun, because like for me, like this is actually funny and ties back to gaming. In games, I never play the meta. Like anytime someone puts out a walkthrough, I always like, I'm gonna do it different. And that's exactly like my way of anything. Like League of Legends is like the huge one, because I played that for so long.
Oh, sure,
and
sure.
People always told me that like, this is the best thing, do this is the meta, I always avoided that as much as I can, and I still hit diamond and all that stuff, and that was like the whole point. And I feel like that's the same thing here. But at the same time, I think you know, when someone's genuine too, like I think the One Piece community resonates with people being real and people being genuine, and like that's where, regardless of where,
to clarify, the One Piece YouTube community is like that.
Oh,
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. But I would argue that the One Piece community at large, like Reddit and Twitter,
are not. Okay, so I'm not.
Everything is good or everything is bad. There's no middle ground. There's no nuanced conversation. I think YouTube, but that comes with our process, right? It's like we're content creators. So YouTube, of course, if you're genuine and you're giving your honest opinions, you will succeed. Regardless of whether or not you get hate for a certain opinion or whatever, you're still making conversation. And people still like and acknowledge the fact that you are being yourself in your video. Whereas I think like when you're writing up a post on Reddit, or you're making a tweet or something that you're planning on having go viral, right? You're writing it to be incendiary. You're writing it specifically to get traction so people talk about it. And that doesn't always necessarily mean it's the most genuine take. It means like, oh, everyone's saying this chapter is good. Even if I had a problem with it, that means like I have to go on Reddit and say like how much I love this chapter and go to whatever. Can you imagine? Like I like the meme of someone was like, can you believe what Oda did this week? Now I don't know if you know this, but he put the pencil to paper and he drew Luffy. And that means that Luffy is able to do things in the story of One Piece. Like that, I don't know if you've ever seen that meme.
No,
before.
I haven't.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about what you're telling me is like I am so new to the space that like I have not interacted with Reddit. I've never been like I'm not a huge Redditor in the first place. So then like when people talk about Reddit in the One Piece community, I'm just like, I'm just gonna stay like, you know, wherever feels natural to me to go to. And like
I also think too, you're on like the 4th generation of One Piece YouTubers.
Yeah.
Because like I would say I'm 2. I would say I'm late 2 actually, because there were like King of Lightning and Forever World, like all the OGs. I would say they were the ones that really started this whole review reaction kind of culture for One Piece. And then there was like the 2nd generation, which I would say is like me and Joy Boy. And then I usually throw Tekking in there too, because Tekking was known primarily for Bleach, but came up with One Piece stuff around the same time that me and Joy Boy really found our audience. And then after that, I would say it was like Brago really started to come up, and you saw like a lot more of the streaming kind of people rise up again. And now it kind of feels like it's theorists. And like also / streamers that are on the come up right now. So you're kind of part of this like 4th wave. So yeah,
it's definitely a fun wave to be on. And it's like it, you know, a lot of people say that I have like a breath of fresh air when it comes to like the content stuff.
You do.
And it's so weird because like now that I'm like a part of it, and like I feel like where I naturally gravitated to was just having conversations with all these other creators and just having fun. And like, you know, I think the last stream was essentially that, where it's like didn't matter we disagreed. I think I just had fun like poking like the
that is the fun of it, of course. I never understand, right? When there's this weird, like, again, it exists mostly on Twitter. It doesn't exist on YouTube because we're literally talking to each other, right? We're face to face. We're having a conversation. But I think, Twitter gets lost in the hot takes, I think. And people will see one tweet about something that you didn't like and then blow it up proportion, like, oh, you're such a hater of this series. It gets quote retweeted because everyone's trying to dunk on you because you've got a verified account or whatever, or you have a lot of followers. And they're like, well, you know, this guy's such a trash take. Like, how does he have an opinion? And it's, you know. It comes from there. So
And so I mean, through so many, I mean, whether you guys are on my channel or from Roger's channel, thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning into The Voice of All Things. Thank you for listening to The Voice of All Things. And with that, I think there's no stronger voice than Roger's, which is like true, like, you know, in terms of like the sentimentality of it, but also the physicality of it. This man's voice is so strong, and also just like I've had times where my computer, I guess the algorithm just knows, like, if you're streaming, it auto redirects me to your thing, and then you just hear Roger's voice. Like, I'll be in the kitchen or something, and it's like, I was like, oh God, there's Roger. My wife even recognizes your voice too. She's like, oh, is that Roger? And so, like, you know, that's another part of this stream segment that I do, is like learning about the voice of all things within the One Piece community. And so with that, like, I know that this recent arc that we're getting into is one of the most exciting ones, but before that, I like learning about where people like came from. I know like Mammoth Boys is something that you really loved, with like, you know, Jack and all of that, and like the way I think it was like the first billion berry bounty man. He's so cool. Came on strong. But something else that you brought up earlier was like this arc is feeling like pre-time skip. And and so I'm wondering, like, what like moment in One Piece do you feel like was the hook that got you into One Piece? I don't know your like early One Piece story, 1, but then also 2, like, where was it when the story hit you?
I'll do you one better. Let me go get my Shonen Jump right now. I have my original Shonen Jump that I started reading One Piece in.
Oh man,
near mint condition. Let me go grab it real quick.
All right, all right. So, and then with that, with you guys here, it we'll be looking at the chat. Know that if you guys tune in late or whatever, let the people know who come in the middle of the stream. I post these up as a VOD on my second channel, ParVision VODs. I look at all the comments and chats. If I miss it here, I see it when I upload it. And if there are super chats, we'll be getting to them all towards the end of the stream as well.
Oh.
Okay.
Here's how this worked. Okay.
All right.
Way back in the day, when I was like 13 or 14 or something. I was probably younger then. I was probably like 12. I would go to Barnes and Noble with my dad, or Borders when Borders was still around, and we would go read. We would grab a Starbucks, sit, and go read. And my dad would read car books, and I would go read manga. What I did is I was a huge fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I was a huge fan of a series called Sergeant Frog. So what I would do is I would grab the newest volume of Sergeant Frog, all of my volumes for which I still have to this day, the entire series, Sergeant Frog, from when I was growing up. I would go read the latest Sergeant Frog volume, then we would go to where the Shonen Jump magazines were, and then I would grab this. I would grab the latest magazine, and I would grab it because they would always come with Yu-Gi-Oh cards in them.
Oh.
So they would have like specialty promo Yu-Gi-Oh cards in the physical Shonen Jump that you couldn't get anywhere else. So I thought, okay, I want to actually give the series that are in Shonen Jump a chance, because otherwise I was just buying these for the Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and that was that, and I wasn't actually reading them. So then I sat down, I opened this up, and the first chapter of One Piece I ever read, which was actually a discovery on my stream a little while ago, because I thought it was my second Shonen Jump that I have on my shelf, which is from 2000 and when would it have been? 2005, 2004. Oh, wow. And it was Usopp versus Chu in Arlong Park. For the longest time, I thought that was where I started One Piece. Was Usopp versus Chu in Arlong Park. Nope. I actually started One Piece in the English physical Shonen Jump at chapter 26.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Chapter 26, Mid-Serp Village.
And that's a good chapter to get on, because Captain Kuro's plan was so good.
Exactly. It's the stuff with Django and Kuro. Exactly.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was I was reading this. I was like, man, this story's really fascinating. So I went back to the manga section and I read the first 2 volumes of the series leading up to this chapter. Caught up, and I was hooked ever since. And literally ever since that moment in Shonen Jump, I've been reading it nonstop. I would read all the new volumes when they came out, because realistically I couldn't go buy like a new volume of Shonen Jump every single month, and they also like weren't readily available. You couldn't really find One Piece online. It didn't have as big of a fandom. Obviously One Piece was on TV, but it was like the bad 4Kids version.
Right.
So it wasn't as readily available. But I would read through all the story arcs basically in chunks while I was at Barnes & Noble with my dad. So I read through Arlong Park that way, Logtown, Little Garden, Whiskey Peak, Alabasta, all that stuff. I then started reading regularly around the time of Water 7. So when Water 7 came out, I remember, and so does Randy, way back in the day on Arlong Park, people had their signatures where it was like Frankie for the next Straw Hat. They had like different images that Oda's releasing of the story. And I would read Water 7 every single week. People would put links to really bad fuzzy scans on Arlong Park, and I would read them every single week. And I read all of Water 7, all of Enies Lobby weekly, and I read all of Thriller Bark weekly up until about halfway through.
Right.
And then I would have been like late high school or early college at the time. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
It was
so
around
like
then.
Between the story and life, like that's when you normally get busy in life, but then the story wasn't
right.
helping itself to keep you
then
reading.
I just dropped it. So I dropped it for a little bit, mid Thriller Bark, and then I was like, I'll come back to it when Brooke joins the Straw Hats. And he did. And then ever since then, after I got back, I have read it every single week ever since, from the end of Thriller Bark to where we are right now.
Oh, wow.
With the only break in that being that chunk in Act 2 of Wano Country after Big Mom got amnesia, before the Yasu 3-part thing where he sacrifices himself and stuff. That little chunk is the only chunk in the history of One Piece since Thriller Bark that I have not been reading week to week.
And to clarify for the viewers, that chunk, was it a similar sentiment as Thriller Bark as the reason why you had the break? Okay.
Right.
Just shout out the Phantom.
Main reason why I was just super mad about Big Mom's amnesia. I thought the way it happened in the story, I was not a fan of. We had just come off of Whole Cake Island, which for me was the beginning of where I started to see like the bad side of the One Piece community on my YouTube videos. Because like Dressrosa, Zoe, I was just having a good time, right? I was making theories, having a good time. Whole Cake, even the beginning of Whole Cake, I was having a good time. I was enjoying like the Disney stuff of it. I thought like the actual Tea Party is still peak One Piece. I think those chapters are so good. And then like moving into Luffy Katakuri and a lot of the stuff like post the Tea Party, that's what really started to lose me. And I was like, especially because I was cranking out separate videos. I wasn't doing them like live streams. I was doing reactions to every chapter, reviews to every chapter, and theories after every chapter. And I was just burning myself out. And this was amidst like when I was also covering My Hero every week. I was covering Attack on Titan monthly. I was covering a lot of
told me
other
about
series.
that time.
Yeah, and I was finding more enjoyment in all these other series. And it just ended up being like, look, I gotta take a step back. I discovered Hunter x Hunter during that time when I took that little bit of a break, and then I came back stronger, and I've been loving it ever since. Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting. I just want to shout out Phantom Nebula here, who said that they started the same time in their summer of 4th grade year. So that's just like,
there you go.
It's a cool connection because like that's very different from my. I was weekly, but the anime up until like last year, and then I reread all the manga. Yeah. So like we come into this different perspectives, but then we're talking about it. But like I think like something that I respect too is like the reason why you stopped was more so like you didn't want to create a negative connection with One Piece. It feels like you were like, you know, I love this story, let me give it a chance in a different way, let me take a break. And that's a you know, in life too, like you have to do that with certain things. You take a break and then you come back to it and it's fine, and it's like all about maintaining that positivity, which is like really interesting. So
and that to me too is so important, because like one thing I always will tell people whenever they're like, I want to make a YouTube channel, what are your pro tips? I always say only make videos you're passionate about. Because the second the passion's gone, people can tell. And then it's not genuine and you're not having a good time doing it and you're forcing it out. Like, rule of thumb is if you would not make a video without being paid for it, don't make the video. You know what I mean? Like, if you weren't doing it anyway, just don't make it.
And you asked, like, you know, with like the risk of my theories, the risk, and I told this to a bunch of creators, is like, I don't care if the theory's bad or it's not believable. I'll take like a 0% idea and make it a 2% idea in your brain, just for the sake of, does it get you to smile? Does it get you to freak out a little bit? Does it get you to mute the stream just because it's like so reactive, you know? And that's like the play there. And like Randy
that's
Troy,
what makes your stuff fun. Exactly.
Randy Troy just popped in, and that was the same thing.
What's up, Randy?
If you go back to, he posted the shadows theory that I did on his thing. He literally flipped upside down because he was just like, what is he saying right now? So that's the whole play with.
Well, dude, you got your hockey up on that Reverie. I mean, when you brought up that shadow theory like 4 hours in or something, it was like half the comments were, wow, ParVision W. It's great.
Thank you for shouting me out that, because like I was like you know, I didn't know what, that was my first experience talking with a lot of people, and Jay was like telling me like, yo, you gotta get your conquerors up, you have to fight people.
You gotta get your hockey up. Exactly.
And so like I did not know that I'd get like the floor like that, and then for you to just be like, just link the video, that was too good. And I was like, oh my god, Roger, thank you.
Of course, yeah, your stuff was great.
Yeah, and so like with that, I feel like both of us have like a very, and that's why I titled this stream "The Joy Boys Unite," because like we both
there
like,
you go.
Like especially seeing you at Nintendo like that day.
Oh, at the store when we were hanging out at New York.
Yeah. Like Comic-Con was an experience. I didn't get to see you interact per se, but at Nintendo World, it was just like, it was like seeing like Luffy in the store running. Like I'm assuming, I don't know if you vlogged that part, but
there's some videos and some photos and stuff, but I didn't vlog. I was just enjoying myself because we had just worked the whole week in New York Comic-Con. So me and Yannicka and Toadski, we were super busy doing stuff for Treasure Cruise. And actually, my video that's going up tomorrow is my vlog from Comic-Con. So all the One Piece stuff that was there, you're going to see in that vlog. Like the One Piece booth, the Toei Animation booth, all that stuff. And so I just wanted to unwind and just like have a good time. And I didn't know when I was going to be able to see everybody at New York. And I knew there were lots of people. And I was working when I was on the show floor. Like I was meeting viewers and it was fun, but I wanted to actually link up with people who were like friends of mine while I was there. So that's why I put that DM group together. I'm like, dude, if you're a friend of Rogers Base, we're getting lunch. We're going to the Nintendo store. We're doing this in the morning. Everyone
Yeah.
come through. And then we did, and it was an awesome time. And,
And-
it was literally the last thing, you could attest to this, it was the last thing I did before boarding my flight.
Yeah.
I took an Uber from the restaurant for lunch with all my bags direct to the airport, and I got on a flight and I was already back.
Yeah, and
It
I
was
even
wild.
pulled out a mini Luffy thing. I made you sit down for lunch. I found us a place. We sat
You
down
did.
lunch,
You
so
did.
we could have a little bit more time. Like, I mean, responsibly, of course, but like,
Responsibly.
I can't describe enough how much like Luffy it was being there. Like, a lot of people think that like I'm like Luffy like on the internet, on stream, whatever, and I am like that in person too. But like, you know, like the beginning of Egghead, like where Luffy's like, wow, this is cool, giant robot.
Yeah.
Like that was literally Roger's base. But then on top of that, like, this was me meeting you for the first time, but then
Sure, of
also
course.
meeting a bunch of your friends too. And I was
Sure.
so like grateful that you invited me to that.
Of
And
course.
you made it such a like it's the same thing with like Luffy, where it's like, you know, he brings a bunch of people from different worlds together, and just we like after you left, I started talking with everybody. Like, I found out where
Awesome.
like I'm basically neighbors with like one of them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm not gonna dox out those things,
Yeah,
but like,
for sure.
and then like in terms of a few of them are anime only. I'm like, yo, let's do a stream
Yeah.
together, because I've been looking
Oh,
for
fun.
anime only people who aren't afraid of manga readers. And then
Oh,
we're sitting
fun.
across, yeah. So like all of that is so awesome in that regard with like you know, how you are, and I love seeing how like I think you. Whether or not One Piece was like your inspiration to be who you are, or you just happen to be the way One Piece is, I like to
Yeah.
think about it. It just, that's why we all gravitated toward this thing. And then we all like kind of relate in this way
Yeah.
where like we're living One Piece in real life to a certain extent. And
That's very sweet.
I think that that's what Oda wants more of us to do. And that's
Yeah.
why I think a lot of people gravitate towards you. And, you know, like you say me, I can't say people gravitate towards me. I'm just existing and people are here. So I'm just grateful for
People
that.
are finding you. It's good. I think good content will be found,
Mm-hmm.
regardless. Like, it might take time, but people will find you, and that's always been the case, right? It's like, if you make good content and you're genuine and you're, you know, true to yourself and you're true to your audience, you'll always find an audience. There might be dips, obviously. You know, sometimes Nintendo will be more popular, sometimes One Piece will be more popular, sometimes Genshin will be more popular.
Right.
It depends on what I'm covering, right? But it doesn't matter, because it's still all stuff that I enjoy. And so
Right,
long as
right.
I'm continuing to do things that I enjoy, and like, that's very sweet that you mentioned that, like, you felt I was like Luffy, like introducing you to everybody from all different walks of life and stuff. That's very kind. But yeah, I mean, you're witness to the fact that like I am me. There's no,
Yeah.
like, I am very much me.
I would go off on a limb
Yeah.
and say you're more you in person, and it's like
Really?
crazy. Yeah, it's
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It was like I
Yeah.
think what it is. I think this is what it is. It's because when you're on camera, you're sitting down. Versus
Sure.
all the times you were up and around and like
Sure.
moving, and like I don't know how you incorporate that in stream, but that is one way further to everyone to get more of a Roger experience, because like Roger also just here's a small like story. Was like I was somewhere else in the Nintendo store, and Roger was like doing his thing, and I was like buying certain stuff, and I just heard a few people, they weren't part of like any of the thing, they just walked in, I saw them walk in, and they were like, wait, is that Roger next to Bowser? And then I was just like listening to their conversation, and they were like, I'm pretty sure, and they were like you could see a little bit of like the sweat beads going down, like, oh my god. And then they went on
man, that's so
YouTube.
cute.
They're like, and I think you were wearing a mask at the time too, so they
I
were
was,
like,
yeah, in the
I think
story.
all they had to go off of was your hair, and
Yeah.
so the hair
swoop,
peeping
exactly, yeah.
yeah. And so then I was just like that's Roger. And then they went over and took a picture. And then like it was just so like cool for them to interact with you, and then you to be the way you are, and you set up the whole thing, and that was a lot of
Oh
fun.
yeah, I mean, I genuinely love meeting people like in person.
Right.
I always feel bad whenever people go on Twitter and they're like, "Oh, I saw you, but I was too nervous to say anything." I'm like, "Please say something. Come
Yeah.
up to me." Like that's why I go to these events. It's like I want to talk to people and meet people and stuff. That's fun.
Yeah,
You know.
I figured that was the case. That's why I was like, psst, psst, that is Roger. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. By all means, say hello.
And so you segued into a great thing with like the video game stuff. Like you're doing
Yeah.
these things and it's fun. And so now, like, it was funny because when I talked to you at the Reverie, you said, I said something like, oh, I'd love to talk to you in the future. And then you're like, well, I'm not a One Piece streamer anymore. I'm a Genshin Impact streamer. And like, I've been seeing your streams every once in a while with Nintendo stuff, like Xenoblade, like Genshin, all this stuff. And you, like, the way you go through games is like, I remember that, and it makes me want to play games too. And
fun.
we're in like, probably the best arc for that. And so something that I was like want to ask you is, now that you've seen what we've seen with Vegapunk, has that reinvigorated like a certain game in your mind that you want to go back and play, or just gaming in general? Because that's how I felt when I got to this thing. I was like, oh, I'm booting up the Super Nintendo. I'm booting up Nintendo 64. I'm playing all these old games right now.
It's wild. I would say maybe no, just because it's always my job, right? My job is I literally play video games. I stream games and I read One Piece. That's my thing. I read, I watch anime, I read manga, and I play video games. So for me, I'm in the thick of a lot of stuff right now.
Right.
Splatoon 3 just came out. Xenoblade 3 I just finished. Genshin I'm streaming every week. Mario Rabbids just came out. What else? Persona just came out on Switch. Pokemon's 2 weeks from now. Fire Emblem's January. February's going to be Octopath Traveler. May's going to be Zelda. So it's like non-stop games from now literally until like May.
Right. And a
so
lot of
just like
No, what were you going to say? No, what were you going to say?
I was going to say is that like a lot of those games too are things I've been waiting for a really, really long time, and that directly tie into my audience. Like One Piece Odyssey is another one. One Piece Odyssey comes out the week before Fire Emblem does, and I was just saying on my stream yesterday that I think you tuned in for a little bit, that like One Piece Odyssey is probably going to be the first situation in the history of my channel in which I'm doing 2 playthroughs at one time, because I'm going to have One Piece Odyssey, and I know I'm not going to be done with that by the time Fire Emblem Engage comes out. So I'll be streaming Fire Emblem and One Piece Odyssey every week until I beat them, in addition to my normal content. So like my One Piece stuff and Genshin stuff too. So it's non-stop gaming for me. But I will say that having Egghead Island have so many like technology bits and like pieces of gaming lore sort of thrown in there as Easter eggs, no pun intended with it being Egghead Island, I kind of love it. I love that it's happening now. I think it's the perfect story arc to have post Wano Country, where we're in this sort of like, old era Japan versus like brand new technology, anti-gravity, holograms, lightsabers, all this kind of stuff. And it's exciting. It feels to me like a pre-time skip One Piece arc in the sense that so many of those pre-time skip arcs, like we didn't know what to expect. Like going into Wano, we knew what to expect, right? We knew it was going to be old Japan. We knew kind of like what the story beats were going to be for the most part. I think there were a couple surprises in there, like Yamato and stuff. Dressrosa, we're like, okay, it's going to be like Spain. I would even say to an extent, Zoe, kind of. We knew it was going to be like ancient ruins on the back of an elephant. Like, there were all these things. But we really have no idea what to expect with Egghead Island. Like, we know it's a Vegapunk technology island, but I don't think any of us expected, like, the tropical environment. I don't think any of us expected, in the middle of all this, to have Law and Blackbeard fight, and all these other story revelations that are obviously going to be so important to the final saga. Right. So I'm loving it, man. I just think it's exactly what we needed after Wano Country. It's giving me the same vibes that I felt when I was reading Zoe week to week, and that was the happiest I ever was doing reactions on YouTube, because everything was like so new. Oh, well, that's not true. I would say Zoe and Reverie were both. Because Reverie was very much the same way. Reverie and Zoe were both, every single chapter was a banger. There was no filler. And we were super excited every single chapter. It was quick. And I feel like Egghead's the same way. Right. Like, I think as we move further through the story, I have a deeper appreciation for the shorter story arcs than I do these long epic ones. And for me, stuff like Dressrosa and Wano and Fishman Island doesn't connect in the same way, or Whole Cake even, doesn't connect in the same way to me that like a Zoe, Reverie, or Egghead have so far.
Right. And I think that's like the main thing. It's like people are going to gravitate to what relates them and makes them happy. Right. And like it, the way you describe it, it makes perfect sense as to why that's the case. And Randy is saying definitely he agrees. He says, we don't have the baggage and drag-alongs with Wano. That's what gives it pre-time skip vibes for me. Cruise focused. Yes.
And that's the other thing, too, is, people were complaining, or at least I saw people complaining in my comment section, during that first chapter of Egghead where they get separated, right? But that I didn't mind. this time around, because I feel like the separation, it's not going to be for long, as we saw in this chapter, where, you know, they have the group that's on the back of the robot with Lilith right now, and they look down and they're like, oh, Luffy's down there. Like, Luffy's got to be down there on the bottom level. And they mention that right away. So it's not like they're wondering where he is or trying to figure out, like, what happened to him. They know he's down there, he's fine.
Right,
And they know Jinbei's with him and Chopper's with him, and they're fine. And Bonnie's there, too. And then you've got the rest of the crew as well. That's all together. And the dynamic between those groups, I think, is really interesting. Like that Brooke and Zoro are chilling back on the boat. You've got, like, Sanji with Frankie and the girls, and Usopp as one group, and then you've got like Jinbei, who's sort of like the grandfather of the group, the newest member of the crew, alongside Chopper, who's our mascot, plus our protagonist, plus our character of the week, that's Bonnie. So it's like the way they broke everything up, I thought is just brilliant.
Perfect. Yeah, so I guess to shift a little bit to another angle is like, now that we see Vegaland a little, I'm calling it Vega. Do we get a name for it? I think they just called it Futureland still, but I just like calling it Vegaland because
no, they call it the Labosphere and the something sphere.
Yeah, something sphere. Let me double check.
Pull it up real quick. Yeah, got the official release right here. Hold on.
Yeah, so with that, and we're seeing all these gaming references, and I feel like the game stuff is so core to who you are. Given like your massive knowledge about these things, and what I was going to say earlier is that all the games that you mentioned are games that could be referenced within One Piece, and I pulled up the cover story where Oda brought in Zelda, brought in Mario, brought in Tekken, brought in
that's literally right there. I mean, I could tell you all of them. Is Robin is the devil from Devil World. You've got Luffy as Ken and Ryu from Street Fighter, specifically Ken.
Right.
Which was also funny because this kind of is referenced with the Gear 5 hair as well, with the punch. Fighting Frankie, who's obviously Donkey Kong. You've got Sanji with Splatoon with the water gun. You've got Jinbei as Mario. You've got Zoro as Link. And then Chopper as a slime from Dragon Quest.
Right.
So yeah, all of this is obviously heavily inspired by video games. We know Oda loves video games, and we've already seen references to things like the question mark blocks and stuff on the bottom portion of Egghead Island. So I think they're only going to continue. Also, real quick, the Labo phase is the top portion.
Yeah.
The name for the bottom portion, the factory level with the researchers and the tropical stuff, that's the Fabrio phase.
Right. I tried Googling that and nothing came up. Fabrio phase, nothing came up on Google.
I assumed fabrication, right? Like Fabrio, fabricate, it's their factory. So
it's
like
interesting.
The fabricate area and the laboratory area.
Yeah. So I just like, it was like when I typed in Fabrio phase, I was expecting something, but then for zero results to come in, I was like, wow, we're just inventing words now. Because now the whole
Labo phase, you're gonna have Nintendo Labo show up with all the cardboard stuff.
True. That's and so like with that, I feel like it is, apt to say that Oda's gonna pull from a lot of the video games that are core to us, but core to Japan, and that's your focus. So by the end of Egghead, what kind of video games do you see being pulled from as we close out Egghead? And what would you like to see too?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see some type of Metroid reference at some point in Egghead. I think would be sick, right?
Yeah.
Have, like one of the paths of Vegapunk have like a Samus type like weaponized mech suit. I think would be awesome.
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool.
One of them could easily wait. Hold on, Lilith could easily be like a Zero Suit Samus kind of like vibe.
Sure. Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh wait,
we could have already seen her exactly.
Yeah.
I also think, like, if they're going to reference other video games, we've already seen Mario. I think, to me, Dragon Quest is a big one. Like, I think people underestimate how huge that is in Japan. Like, Dragon Quest is to Japan what One Piece is to Japan versus the rest of the world. Like, obviously, One Piece is popular in the rest of the world, but One Piece is like a lifestyle in Japan.
Right.
And Dragon Quest is the same way. Dragon Quest is a popular series elsewhere, but in Japan, it's like a lifestyle. Everyone grew up with Dragon Quest. Everyone played Dragon Quest. He's literally referenced it with the slime hat on Chopper in this. So I feel like that's probably what we're going to see. Probably something Dragon Quest related. Even if it's just like a thing in the background, like a fun reference. And then, I think more just like background things. I don't think anything is going to be integral to the story. Like, I don't think we're going to see any big video game references as like power-ups for characters. But I do think in terms of like the atmosphere of the Fabrio phase, I think we're
Right.
going to see some video game related stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited because, like I was saying to you before, for you it doesn't phase you because, like you said, it's your career as well.
Right,
For
right.
me, I feel like this is huge for it. Almost like I was joking about it. It almost feels like Nintendo and One Piece are collabing to a certain extent, and it's
Well,
like,
to be fair, Straw Hat Pikachu was just in Pokemon Go last year. And well, actually, I can't say the other thing. Never mind, I can't say the other
oh,
thing.
good.
Wait.
Damn it!
The first thing I can say, the Pokemon Go thing, I can't say. I almost said something else, and I realized that could potentially get me in trouble, so I'm not going to say that. But
All right, good catch.
there's potentially other One Piece / Nintendo things that I think could be cool coming in the future.
Right,
so.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's funny to me because now that we see, like, with the way Film Red was handled, it was like collab central, and you kind of like get, you know, the promo towards a certain thing. Now that I see like this cover story and then the way Nintendo's going, the way One Piece is going with the Vegapunk thing, I could easily see by, you know, Pokemon Worlds next year that you were talking about, by that time we get a full force like collaboration there. Where
That'd be awesome.
Like,
I hope, because I don't know how long you think this arc's going to go. I think it's probably a year-long arc, right? I think it's going to last us about a year. And so that would bring us to Pokemon Worlds next year being sort of like the climax of the arc, if it's going to be kind of a shorter one. I mean, that would be sick. I would love to be in Japan for the finale of Egghead Island. I think would be really, really cool. And I'm going to be there in August, so you should come through.
Spoiler!
Yokohama.
Spoiler! We talked about this few Nintendo thing, so there might be a ParVision in Japan sighting someday soon.
You should do it. You should do it. It's gonna be fun.
I mean, especially with this build-up, like you're saying, like I feel like the climax of this arc might be this time next year, and so especially with how we're seeing all these elements combined, where it's like I would have thought that even without the Dragon Drop, but now that we got the Dragon Drop, now we have CP0 coming in, we have Seraphine's Akuma story, like there's so many different elements.
Of course,
it doesn't make sense for it to be that brief, if that makes sense.
No, especially I don't think it's gonna be super brief.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be like a decent sized arc. I think it's gonna be. I think people think long story arcs and think Wano, Dressrosa now, right?
Right.
But realistically, I think it's going to be like Punk Hazard.
Normal.
Punk Hazard was what, a year and a half?
Yeah, like a normal amount.
I think it'll be a normal amount.
Yeah. So that is exciting because I feel like another part of this is like when you get into the story, it's about being excited about your not expectations, but what might come from the story. And not that traditional Wano or Japan isn't exciting, but that's also more far removed from the international community. So you could be creating a fatigue of some sort by having a 4-year long, you know, experience of Japan, where that's not necessarily relatable to everybody, but video games is worldwide. You know, and Oda doesn't have to do the groundwork of making video games interesting to people. This is like, I've talked to like 20 different people. Each person has picked out a different game that they relived because they saw like either Godzilla, someone brought back like all the Godzilla movies and stuff like that. Some people, I brought up Monsters because the way one of the dragons had like the eyeballs, I was like, that reminded me of that. And some people were saying SpongeBob. But then also we just came off of Oda admitting that like Year 5 was inspired by Tom and Jerry. So between like these old cartoons, these old video games, like I think worldwide, it doesn't even matter. Like you're gonna hear whispers of like, I don't know, like some crazy video game reference that you made one earlier with the whole like the Zelda ending with the arrow. The
light arrow, the hologram.
And then like people hear that coming from one like, what? We got that, like that'd be so wild, you know what I mean?
I will say, going back to the topic of like things that I think could be referenced more overtly in this arc compared to other things, I think one would be Pokemon. Because I think the idea
Pokemon
of like
Worlds.
some type of like little capsule thing that could contain those like DNA spliced sea beasts could be really fascinating. Where if you have these little capsules that contain these beasts and you throw them in the water and all of a sudden you could take on a fleet with this giant DNA spliced like sea beast thing, that's cool. And goes directly in line with Vegapunk and wouldn't be straight up Pokemon. They're not going to make it look like a Pokeball.
Right.
But I think they could do something with that in terms of like the future technology while also referencing video games. And Pokemon is, you know, as huge in Japan as something like Dragon Quest, so I feel like that's a big one.
And a way to, you know, even like you said, it doesn't have to be 1-to-1. A way to make that
Right.
less so Pokemon and more so everything is actually a Dragon Ball reference. It could be similar to like Bulma's capsules, and
There you
so
go, like
that's
capsules,
a huge
exactly.
day one type of like reference.
Exactly. Yeah.
One
Or
way
like
or
even like I think the other thing too that we've seen with Atlas already is Atlas kind of gives me like Mega Man Astro Boy vibes.
Yeah,
So I think there
100%.
might be more of that as well once we see the other characters that are part of like the paths of Vegapunk.
Yeah.
I am curious to see what they're going to look like what Edison or Pythagoras are going to look like.
And we're 100. I feel like we have to get some kind of like Gundam or Transformer fusion tech going on.
Oh, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Like maybe all the satellites combined to make like a mega Vegapunk. Like that'd
That
be
would be
really cool,
cool.
right?
That would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so much to look forward to here. And so now there's something that got you really happy. You stopped in the
Yeah.
midst of your reaction to shout out Matt B for the Dragon
That's
Revolutionary Connection that you've been talking about for a long,
Yes.
long time. And this
Yes.
is something like, again, I'm new to the community, so I'm so glad that you gave me this lore because I'm going to talk to Matt
Yeah.
B soon. And
Yeah.
I'd love to bring these things because I feel like Matt B is the type of person that like, he has like the ideas that he's day one thought of and he stuck to his guns and he's just
Yeah.
still there. Yeah, yeah. And I agree with a lot of his takes. That's why every time we talk, we're like, all right, we're on the same wavelength. But with this one, I want to throw an idea your way with
Let's hear it.
now that we got the Dragon and Vegapunk connection. Something that I don't know if you noticed in the last chapter 1063 here, I'll pull it up, was
I'll pull
we
it up
saw
right here. I got my iPad. Yeah.
we saw Kuma in the back with in like when Bonnie was crying, that face.
In
And
1063.
I believe it was in 1063 where she was crying and
Oh yeah. That really cool panel with like the white light where he was doing the cool thing with the shading.
yes.
I got it right here. I got it.
And so Kuma is in the back holding Bonnie, and we
Yeah.
get to see his outfit and what he looked like previously. And something
Yeah.
a lot of people pointed out was he's wearing a cloak
right
that
here.
almost is similar to what Caesar wore, what we were shown of Vegapunk. So it might be, and now that we get more of a confirmation that like he interacted with Mads, but it could be
Yeah.
that he was a part of Mads. And now
Would have been awesome.
why that's interesting is now we get a Dragon angle, right? We knew Kuma was connected to Dragon. Now we know Vegapunk is connected to Dragon. Now, something I was thinking of was you mentioned it earlier, Dragon's always associated to wind. And
Yep.
something that I've been noticing is that all the Mads players, we've been introduced to an aspect of what Vegapunk has done in the totality on Egghead, like from cloning and modification, that's Judge, from like even the sickness and like gas stuff, we see that Vegapunk was a part of that, but also fixed that. He was a part of that project. There's various aspects, you know, with the smiles that Queen and Caesar were doing, and Vegapunk has also been a part of. So we've been learning about those things. One thing that we haven't learned yet is where the weather stuff comes from, because he's making an aircon, he's doing all the weather stuff, and we know
Yeah.
that on Karakuri Island he wanted to geothermal tap the country, but not necessarily affect the climate and weather, but he's making atmospheres, anti-gravity. And given that Dragon is associated to weather, I was thinking, is it possible that Dragon was also a mad scientist, but specifically on weather stuff? Because here's the detail that I was thinking of, was on Witheria.
Okay.
Witheria, we find out about Witheria with Nami. And one thing that they said was like, you could, this information is dangerous. Like if, and like in the wrong hands, it could be deadly or something like that.
Yeah.
And I always thought about that. I was like, that means that there's precedent for this. That means that someone else has like this knowledge and they're fearful of it. And the perfect person for that is, hey, if you taught Dragon all this information and then he leaves and then you find out he's the world's worst criminal, you'd be like, okay, we have to be very careful with this information. So it could easily be Dragon knows weather science, and that's his connection to mad science, the mad science group. And so all the weather related stuff that we see in Vegapunk, that's where Vegapunk and Dragon actually connect. And that further
Love that.
ties the Kuma connection as well. So I just want to
Yeah.
know your thought on those connections.
No, I
there.
love it. I think that's great. I love the more connections we could do with Vegapunk and Dragon and Kuma, the better. And I also think you were talking about Witheria. Witheria obviously was on like a sky island. You had the geothermal clouds. You mentioned the exact same thing. Dragon's powers somehow being linked to the weather in some way. Potentially, if he was a scientist with Mads that was experimenting on weather, that opens up a whole possibility with more of the stuff that we were discussing on my stream regarding the potential for like an Order 66 type deal that Vegapunk, Kuma, and Dragon all worked on with the pacifistas, where all of a sudden they could turn. No, I think that's great. The wind connections, everything. I think that's brilliant. Yeah, I love the idea that all of this stuff that we've known about for so long, but just like briefly experienced at a glance, whether it was like Dragon using the wind at Logtown, or the D brings a storm, right? That people always bring up time and time again. Tying back into all of this, I think is great. Yeah, the more that kind of stuff can connect, the better. Because that's what always gets me excited. When something connects to this other thing that was also from this other thing 10 chapters ago, this other thing that was also there like in the first 100 chapters of One Piece, and it's clear that Oda wanted to do this all this time.
Right.
Because I think there's definitely situations in which Oda goes a certain way with the story, and I'm like, you're full of it. That's not actually what you wanted to do. You did that because somebody figured out what you wanted to do and you wanted to do something different, or you're just like you're subverting the expectation just to subvert the expectation.
Right. There's a lot of times where people think like Oda is on Twitter to
God, he's making these connections, and it's like, no, not everything is like that. But I think we're at the point in the story now where a lot of things are like that. This is stuff he has thought about since the beginning, because we're in the final saga. So when else are you going to bring this stuff up? So yeah, I love that. I love the idea that maybe Dragon was like a weather scientist or something with Mads. I don't necessarily know if that would have been the thing that would have gotten him to leave the world government or the Marines or whatever, like what that truth was, that inherent truth about the world that made him so mad that he wanted to eventually start the Revolutionary Army.
But it might be the way he got that information too, right?
Exactly. It could have been through experimentation that the world government made him do as a scientist or something, or things that they did to... I don't know. We'll find out.
I'm interested.
But that's great.
Like something that we talked about earlier was the possibility of Dragon showing up in this arc. Now, he might not show up in the flesh in front of Luffy, but I'd imagine we do get more information through Dragon, because something along... so if you guys didn't know by the time in the stream, I was on Roger's Base's channel earlier for his live reaction, and he was telling me about an Order 66, which is referencing Star Wars kind of theory in terms of the pacifistas, and so if you guys want the full context, because Roger explained it way better on there, definitely go check that out when it's up. I think it's up already, right?
The pod's already up. You can go check, and it's timestamped, so you can if you skip to I think the review portion, you'll be able to hear the whole thing broken down.
Right. So it's right there, and so it kind of boils down to this idea essentially that Vegapunk and possibly Dragon as well, or some other element, is able to control all the pacifistas in mass, and so the world government has an asset that isn't technically their asset. And I want to like go off on another direction there too, because if that is like one of the main connections that Dragon has with that, is it possible that Vegapunk this entire time has been souping up the Revolutionary Army? So all this tech that we see, like I feel like these are like buffed out raid suits. So the Revolutionary Armies are just going to be like a whole futuristic squad essentially. That's
100%. I mean, that goes back to what we were talking on my stream as well, and like what me and Matt B have talked about for so long, right? Is that Vegapunk joined the world government as a member of the Revolutionary Army, right? Agreed to do all this stuff, experiment on Kuma, create all of this, wanting to create a new world because he needs the funding as a scientist to be able to pull off the stuff that he wants to pull off. And he knows the only way to do that is to unite to the world government. But at the same time, like you said, I mean, if he truly is part of the Revolutionary Army and he's been this all along, and this whole thing has been leading up to the moment in which, kind of what we discussed during the live stream earlier, right? If this line from him where he says on the phone with Dragon, he says, "I suspect my death is imminent."
Right.
And then Dragon says, "Stop telling bad jokes, they're not funny." And he says, "I wanted you to hear me out, Dragon." I think this is literally him saying, look, now is the time. We have been building up all of this technology and planning for the Revolutionary Army to finally take down the world government. The time is now. Kaino of Big Mom have been taken down. Your kid is now a Yonko, right? He's here on the island with me. Kuma's kid is here too. Cypher Paul is on their way to come kill me. The Seraphims are now running wild across the world. There's no better time than now to do it.
Right.
And I think that's what he's having the conversation with. I think you're totally right with what you said on the stream, right? That he knows that Lucci, Kaku, Stussy are on their way right now to kill him. He knows that.
Yeah.
And so he needs to get out whatever information he can to Dragon before it's too late. And I love that idea you brought up about the idea of like the keyword or something that he was going to tell it to Dragon but gets killed before he's able to say it.
Right.
And then somehow, some way, Luffy naturally discovers it because of who he is. As Nika, I think is like so cool. But I also think Vegapunk's not dying until like the very end of the arc if he does die.
Yeah.
Because I think we have to see all the other paths of Vegapunk. We have to see how he split himself among this. I mean, it's been so long. There's no way they're just going to kill him off camera.
Oh yeah. I mean, my take with that though is like he's so smart that like he knows it's coming. And it's just, I think what makes sense again is like we get the full amount of Vegapunk.
He's passing the nuclear codes to Dragon essentially.
Yeah, or attempting to, and
or
like
attempting to.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the plot line where it's like I think a lot of people at this point in the story think that Vegapunk is way too powerful to remain in the story. That any offshoot of Vegapunk. I mean, we've already seen this, and I want to shout out what Vic on a Mission said in the Twitch. He says it's crazy that just now being. I'm streaming on Twitch also, by the way, so this is a Twitch chat.
Perfect. Hold on, let me look.
They said it's crazy that we just now being able to make these connections with Dragon, and that's why you were talking about you and Matt B. And it's crazier that you and Matt B were talking about this 2017, 2018, something like that.
Even before then, I mean, Matt was like one of the first people I did theories with. I think. Me, Matt, One World, and Brago brought this up, the idea of like an Order 66 pacifista thing, probably on like a live stream in 2015. I mean, this was like... I could tell you. Let me pull it up. Hold on.
Yeah, so pull it up and then send me the link and then or send it in the Discord so I could pull it up on the stream. So the reason why I bring that up is because this is the thing with theories, right? Like, you guys were essentially on the right trail. But it's been 7-8 years since. So this would have been mid 2016 when we started talking about this. Mid 2016. I know individually we talked about it in separate videos, but that was like when all of us really started doing streams together. It was mid 2016. So 6 years ago, right? Yeah, and it's this is an idea that they were connecting that long ago, which is wild to me because at the time. And this is the thing with theories, like theories, you try to paint a picture and the elements of the picture could be right, but the picture could be wrong, if that makes sense. So the elements of what you're saying, right? Like, so people back then, so One Piece is going to bring in Star Wars. We see a lightsaber in the exact chapter that spawns this connection from 7 years ago. So 100%. And I know for a fact, anyone who's looking for a moment in which we all discuss it, look to the very first Reverie we ever did in early 2017. I know it's a whole conversation topic during that. So if you can't find the video with like me and Matt B and all the rest of us talking about this, you could at the very least go back to the Reverie, which was still 5 years ago. And we're discussing the thing that we discussed on a previous live stream regarding Dragon and Vegapunk's potential connections and the idea of an Order 66 pacifista type attack. Yeah. My viewers know I love doing that, making all the videos connect. So that's something about my channel is that as crazy as all my theories are, the reason why they feel stronger a lot to the people who are ParVision viewers is because no theory is made within like its own bubble. It's always connected to something else. There's 3 or 4 other videos. So I love doing that where it's like the conversation we just had connected back to 7 years ago and we're talking about it here. So now hopefully these people, everyone in the chat goes down the rabbit hole with us and finds out, because I'm definitely going to... If you do find the video with us talking about it, like I said, I know it's a conversation, me and Matt B, and I know it's a Brago stream. If you find it, please link it to me, because I would love to do a TikTok or something where it's like back then and then now, and it's like me reading the chapter that we just did. Next to the thing from 7 years ago, And then hopping onto a stream with Matt B right after. Right, exactly. And then seeing how young you guys both looked in the thing, and then it's crazy. That's another thing with the One Piece. It's like, not that it's like it feels like time travel, but this is like a time capsule where it's like you see a version of yourself thinking this thing, and you feel like you know at the time. For me, it's even more so like looking at the webcam I was using at the time. I was using, because now I've got my nice stream set up. I'm able to go between different scenes. Back then, I was literally using my MacBook
camera and microphone to record everything, whether it was a news video, reaction, whatever. So the quality is abysmal, but the energy still comes through, so they're still fun to watch.
Right, right.
Yeah. 480p boys, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much. That's another part of the community that I love, or not the community, the existence that this is. In that, like, you know, people ask like, "Oh, why do you make videos about like this thing? Like, isn't that super like temporary?" And I think about it, and this is why I'm doing this series with all these creators, is because like my videos, the theory is like that's the temporary part where there's a lot of people tell me they go back and watch those videos, but when One Piece ends, these conversations, the moments that have those the things that not just the memories, but like what we talked about. The same reason you read like 2 panels and you instantly thought of a good friend, Matt B, great conversation on Brago stream, and that's the memory point. That's why it's so fun to be a viewer in the chat, in my opinion, because like, you know, 20 years from now, something is going to come on TV, some reference. It's going to remind us of this moment, and only if you are a Rogers Base viewer, Randy Choi viewer, ParVision viewer, are you going to be able to connect it. Yo, did you see what happened on national TV? That was straight up from this stream. And then
from this discussion they had. Right.
Yeah, and that's what I love doing with this, is like creating things that like we're going to create memories with, right? Like
that's the beautiful thing. I think people go back and will comment on like old theory videos like LOL, this got debunked, like how could you come up with this? But like that's the fun of it. At the time you're theorizing, and like you don't care if it's right or wrong, like it's cool.
Right.
If you get it right, that's a W for you, obviously, but like I don't consider it an L if I got a theory debunked, because it's fun. It was us talking about the thing. It's a W if I got it right, because then it's like, well, duh, because I'm reading the story correctly.
You know? And it's a W for me, because it's like I now remember having you like react the way you did on stream. That's a memory, and I love it. And then like the same thing with the Randy flipping upside down, but then also just like the happiness of this chat. I think one of like so you know, with your stream, for me that was like one of the memorable ones. You didn't lose your voice, sure, but you were active. You were super active in that one.
I was jumping around like crazy. Last time, well, to be fair, last few times I lost my voice completely. That was because I was doing like 4 other things that week, and I was in the midst of all those travels. So I mean, I was losing it for the last 2 months there, like every other day.
I'm with you.
You could hear it in my voice. I mean, it still hasn't fully recovered, but it's much better now than it was way back, you know, a couple weeks ago. A couple weeks ago, I could last like 2 hours. I literally could not stream longer. I had to cut off donations. I'm like, please, people, stop doing it. I can't. I can't get it out anymore. I used up all my energy.
I never
experienced. I'm back in my routine. I'm home. Yeah.
I never experienced that like to the level you did, but Comic-Con was that first thing where every day I was using my voice so heavily. By the end of it, I still like there's remnants of my voice being gone, and I don't have Roger's throat coat, but like I'm like I know why Roger has that, because he's doing way more.
Picoa, do it. This stuff works.
It's amazing. definitely getting that, and so you know, tying back, I mean, we talked about like the voice of all things, your voice and all that thing. So I want to, before we get into some super chats, I saw some super chats, but also like to talk about the chapter a little bit more after, but this is a good segue. I think I heard you say, so like something that you seem to enjoy with One Piece is not necessarily the fan fiction of things, but it feels like you have a very director take towards like what you like and don't like. So like whenever you come up with an idea, you have a whole scene played out when you have that idea. So like whenever you have an epiphany moment on your stream, it's not just the idea, it's a whole script that you have that just got instantly downloaded. And I recently found out, like you said you were a theater kid, and that's like
I was a
and
theater
so
major.
Like is that where that kind of like stems in, like that?
That's
like
exactly
plays?
what I was gonna say. Is I think it comes from my theater background, my English background, right? Like I mean, I was a double major in theater and English in college, and it's the kind of thing where like writing has been a big part of my life. Acting has been a huge part of my life, and so when I see, and I've also like I'm a huge film buff. Right. I know Morge and I have talked about this before. Like we're both massive film buffs, to the point where like Morge even made a whole movie channel, and like I do movie reviews occasionally, and like would love to do more. But I mean, I love movies. I love cinema. I love music. Everything related to entertainment is like huge for me. The same way like a lot of people care about sports, I care about entertainment.
Right.
And so usually when I see a scene that excites me in One Piece, I am instantly thinking of what that's going to be like in the anime, what music track they're going to play during it, like, what the pacing is going to look like, how the frame's going to look on screen, what the animation fluidity is going to look like. So yeah, I do very much like put these ideas in my head where I could close my eyes and kind of see what it's going to look like in motion.
Right.
And then when it comes to like an idea or a theory, like I think one thing you had mentioned earlier on that previous stream was like the lightsaber thing with Zoro, right? The second I saw Bonnie pick up the lightsaber, I'm like, I know damn well Zoro has to pick one of these up by the end of the arc. Because if he doesn't, there's something wrong. Because we know Oda loves Star Wars.
Yeah.
The destruction of Lulu Sia is essentially when Alderaan gets blown up in the first Star Wars movie. So it's like, he's going to do it. At some point, Zoro's going to pick up a sword. And the thing that I am not afraid to do, that I think a lot of One Piece people are, and I don't care, is if I have an idea, and I think it's a really good idea, if that idea doesn't happen, I'm willing to be like, look, Oda, you fumbled. You fumbled. If Zoro doesn't use a lightsaber by the end of Egghead, he's fumbled.
Yeah.
And there's no amount of people going, oh, but it didn't happen naturally in the story. No, he fumbled. Zoro's got to use a lightsaber, or Oda fumbled. Full stop.
And I think
and
like
I will stand by it. I'm a man of my convictions. I said, look, I will take the biggest L of all time, do a stream dedicated to my viewers roasting me. That stream's coming up on Wednesday. I said that if Yamato doesn't join, I'm going to do that thing. Yamato didn't join when I was in London. Then I had to go from London to Chicago to New York to Hawaii. I'm finally back. But now I'm here. I have the time to do it. Wednesday, roast me live on stream. It's going to happen.
All right, you guys know where to go.
Word.
And like with that, I think an important distinction that I like making is like, a lot of people respond with like, oh, Roger thinks he can write better than Oda, and then
that's always the thing. Write your own manga.
Right.
Bro, I'm not a manga writer. I don't want to write my own manga.
Yeah,
you write your own manga. I have no desire to do that. I'm enjoying it as a viewer or as a reader. I'm not speaking from the perspective of like, I am a manga creator, and so this is what you should do.
Well, I had some pushback on that because you said something interesting at Comic-Con that I want everyone to share or hear from you. But before that, what I wanted to say is like on the flip side of that was like, a lot of people kind of think like Oda wouldn't do this. That's not Oda's way. And that's the whole point of this stream, where it's like understanding what you like, what your perspective is. And then on top of that, I'm telling you guys, like, there's in terms of creators, like, he's Luffy, like, embodiment. And so, like, all of us are going to relate to something. All of us are going to relate to a certain part of Oda's story. And we're all going to use that to frame what we expect or see in the future. Yeah. And I think that's all personal. If you think it's fumbled, that's your perspective. And it's like, someone shouldn't take away your experience of One Piece for that.
Exactly. That is it. I think that is where the distinction comes in, right? To me, I say this on my streams all the time. When I say, oh, Oda fumbled, that is my perspective of the story, right?
Right.
Where this idea comes from in the modern day through social media or whatever, that when you're sharing your takes or your opinions on something, that you have to preface it by saying, well, in my opinion, or I think you don't have to say that. It's coming out of your mouth. Obviously, it's your opinion. Yeah. And so frequently, I see people, like, allowing people's negative opinions of things ruin the thing that they like.
Right.
And that, to me, is just the stupidest thing on planet Earth. Like, that proves to me that if you are like that, you are a sheep. Mm-hmm. You are somebody who likes something because other people like it, and you want to be told to like that thing.
Right.
But, like, the example that I used at Comic-Con is, like, Frozen. Okay? I love Disney. I love Frozen. Mm-hmm. I think Frozen's a great movie. But so many people think Frozen is trash. It's overrated. It's not a great Disney movie. Whatever.
Right.
People could say that to me until their face turns blue and they freeze over. I don't care. My opinion of Frozen, the music of Frozen, whatever, I like it. No amount of people telling me this thing is dog shit is going to make me think it's dog shit. Mm-hmm. It goes back to Nintendo. Same thing. The Switch is an underpowered video game system compared to PS5 and Xbox. Like, full stop. It is. We know this. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop playing Switch or that I suddenly dislike Nintendo. Nintendo is still my favorite system to play on. I love Nintendo.
Right.
And so when people are like, but how could you be excited for a port of a game that's already on PlayStation that's now coming on Nintendo? Because it's on my Switch, because I can take it on the go now. That's why. Because I'm excited. I want to be able to play it on my Nintendo system.
Right.
You know? And so again, it's not changing my opinion of this thing I like when someone's telling it to me. I like hearing other perspectives, and I like having the conversation, but people should not allow other people's opinions of things change the way that they feel about a certain thing.
Or enjoy things.
Right.
Don't let someone else change the way you enjoy things. Like, if someone's talking negatively about what you enjoy, I'm sure you're going to find someone who enjoys what you enjoy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the only exception to that rule of, like, your mind changing about something is if the community that you're a part of changes, right? Not the thing itself, but the community. My Hero is a perfect example of this for me, right? It's like, My Hero went in a direction I didn't enjoy. And I was open about it on my reviews. I said, look, I'm not feeling this really anymore. I'm going to take a break. It's not really my thing. People got very angry with me. We're like, you're a hater. You hate this series, whatever. It's the worst thing now. And so now it became a meme on my channel, the clown on My Hero. But realistically, do I hate My Hero? No, not at all. I still think Horikoshi does amazing art. I still think it's got good things to it. But the community, the My Hero community, the people that actually consume the series that I was having direct interactions with every single week, that community took a nosedive.
Right.
After the war and after a bunch of other stuff in the series, it took a nosedive. And so my enjoyment of My Hero didn't change because I already wasn't enjoying My Hero at the time. So that didn't shift.
Right.
But my desire to continue with that series definitely shifted because people were, the community itself, not their opinions of the thing being different, but the community itself started getting toxic and like being weird and personal and like saying that you can't have different opinions about things, and I didn't want to be involved anymore. You know?
Right.
And so that's where the difference comes in. I think a community can ruin a series for you, but a person, one sole person, even if you make the argument that like, oh, but you're a big voice in the community, you're changing the way people are talking about things, regardless of the effect that you or I would have on a viewer, it shouldn't matter. We are not at fault for the prevailing opinion being, the end of Wano had some problems.
Especially because we're not like sponsored by Oda. Like, it's
not like Oda's not sponsoring. Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that people sort of like have this gray area with in terms of creators and speaking our opinions and stuff. It's like you should come to our videos knowing we are sharing our opinion of that thing. That doesn't mean it's objectively good or bad or whatever. It's just our opinion of something.
Yeah.
And if we ever do throw in something in a live reaction where it's, again, like you were mentioning, my reaction to the Stronger Rocks theory, right? It's a visceral reaction. My visceral reaction was, I got to shut you up. I'm muting you. But my reaction to something like Big Mom's Amnesia, right?
Right.
Is if you go back and watch that stream, and I've talked about this before, I am like, if you liked this thing, objectively, you're the worst kind of One Piece fan. And that's the thing that people got mad about, right? It wasn't me saying this thing was objectively bad. It was me saying, if you enjoy this, you're trash. That's where people got upset at me.
Right.
And I understand that now, and so I don't do that as much anymore.
Yeah.
I used to do that a lot more frequently. I don't do it anymore. Because I understand where people were getting upset then, right? Because it's their opinions, and that's totally fine.
Right.
But my visceral reaction in the moment was, bro, this is trash. How could you think anything otherwise?
Yeah. I mean, there's some moments there. I think what a lot of people take, especially meeting you too, is like you're an internet personality, but like Roger truly, like, I
am me, bro.
Yeah. Like friendliness, right? Like when you're saying like you're the worst kind of One Piece thing, he's saying that in a way where it's like, let's talk about this. Like,
exactly, bro. You're nailing it. Exactly. It's like when we were doing the stream earlier today.
Yeah.
And we were talking to that person, kept bringing up like, watch My Hero Academia or something. And I was like, bro, you go watch My Hero Academia. We're talking One Piece right now. I don't care about this. I don't care about you. It's not me being like angry.
Right. It's a hard thing to like. It's a hard thing to grasp via the internet, but like that's the one thing that like. Especially with the Voice of All Things, these streams, like getting people to know the creators a little bit more. And I mean, you don't have no issues with that because you're upfront whenever someone comes up.
I do something that a lot of people don't like to do.
Right.
But I like it. I like engaging with what is presumed toxicity. I think
Right.
it is fun, right? Like there's someone in your chat right now that says you want to criticize everything, but having an opinion against it is not allowed. This guy is a true actor. See, like that is. Let's talk about it, right? Because what I'm saying is, I'm saying everyone can be critical and can criticize something, right? I'm not saying that you're not allowed to have an opinion, but I am allowed, and you are allowed, to say to me that our opinions are trash, right?
Right.
But don't let my negative opinion of a thing you love or vice versa change the way that you feel about that thing. Unless it's something where like you read something incorrectly, right? Like
Right.
if you read the context of a scene differently and someone explains to you like, oh, hey, by the way, like this is actually what was going on in that scene. Then of course, then you could go back and be like, oh, well, I didn't see it that way. So
Right,
like, cool,
right.
I'll change it.
And on
But if
top
you
of that,
feel-
I was gonna add on top of that, like especially with the reactions, and we've talked about this several
Yes,
times.
exactly.
Reactions are
Yes.
reactions, and then like that might not be your synthesis of the situation.
No, of course, because the thing is,
Yeah.
we know a camera's on, right?
Yeah.
We know the camera is on. We are free to be our truest core self
Yeah.
in that moment. So when I see something that I love on the page, I'm gonna pop off. When I see something I hate, I'm gonna throw poor Pillow Sama across the room.
Right.
Like it comes from the fact that it's on camera. Because if I was reading it off camera, I would be having all this stuff internally. I'd be sitting there reading, or I'd be in my room like, I cannot believe this is happening, and Reagan would have to come in and check on me.
Right.
But it's exacerbated because you're on camera, and people are there to watch your initial core self be reflected on the screen, right?
I feel
That's
like-
the fun of a reaction video. So whenever people are like, oh, you're faking reactions or whatever, that's not at all
Yeah,
the case.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, that's not to say some people definitely do fake reactions, and I
Right.
hate that, because it makes a bad name for all the rest of us. But most of us, we are just reading it, absorbing it, and then letting loose our corest emotions.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? Yeah.
I would say like you and I are similar in that, especially seeing you in person, because like I said, the reactions you have on stream are more tamed comparison in you in person. And my wife
yeah,
said
for
the
sure.
same thing about me the other day, where
Yeah.
I wanted to watch Spy Family with her, not on
Yeah.
stream, and she was just like, no, but you love being on stream, and like even if I watch something on my own, if something happens, I'm running around regardless if no one's watching or if I'm on camera. I'm doing the same
Right.
thing. And so my wife has always said, like, she wished she recorded this, for example. Like, she wished someone
Reagan has
saw.
said that on multiple occasions to me.
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
I wish I was recording this thing.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I'm just like, stop talking about the camera. I'm trying to talk about this thing right now. Like,
Right,
whether it be like a
exactly.
movie theater or like after the movie theater, I've had times where like my friends have sat with me for like hours after in the
of
parking lot
course.
talking, and I'm just like,
course.
I'm like crazed, like I'm amazed that they stayed that long with me. But then too, my wife is just sitting there like for 4 hours, and she's just like, you're having so much fun, and I'm just like, I just forgot how much time just went by. I'm just sitting here
Yeah,
talking.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Is that the scheduled time for this to end is 4 minutes from now, bro. We're going another hour, probably easy, because like there's so much to talk about, and you get lost in the sauce of the conversation. And I'm the exact same way, right? I go to see a movie a lot of the time. I had a specific movie buddy I would go see movies with all the time in Chicago. Shout out to Josh Parham in Chicago, Illinois. Shout out to you. We would go see movies all the time, and then we would do the exact same thing. We would go out to dinner afterwards and talk
Yeah.
for like 3 hours about what it was that we just watched. So I think that's where like the review reaction side of me
Right.
comes in, right? Is
Yeah.
Because I do that naturally. Anytime I consume a piece of media, I like going out for dinner afterwards and talking about that thing. I like
Same.
having a conversation about whatever it was I just watched. It's very rare for me to walk out of a movie and be like, that was all right, and then
Yeah.
not talk about it and then go home and go do something else.
And
Never. That rarely happens. And if that happens, that movie was a piece of garbage.
Right.
Because I had nothing to talk about then.
And that's what I was gonna say. No spoilers for Film Red, but Film Red was a movie where we went out for more time than the movie ran.
Oh, yeah.
More like we were like 4 or 5 hours just sitting in the bar outside, like
We were.
after. Yeah, and like that
Yeah.
tells you that like regardless of your take, like just watch it with a friend. You know, go there with a group,
Absolutely.
and you'll
And
have
that's
conversations.
The fun part is when you have those memorable conversations where you completely disagree. So like, I think back to the first time I saw Wolf of Wall Street. I hated that movie. Hated it.
Okay.
And my buddy Josh loved it.
Yeah.
Josh Parham, he was like obsessed with it. He thought it was the best. He loved it. And we had a whole discussion about it. And then over time, I actually have ended up liking that movie upon rewatch. And he's ended up liking it less. And so it's funny how our opinions
Yeah.
have changed over time upon other things happening in our lives, watching the movie again, getting a different perspective of it.
Right.
Meanwhile, like there's another movie called The Master that came out. It's a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, and it's about like, well, it's not totally based on the founding of Scientology, but it's kind of like that. There's a guy
Oh,
it's like
got
meant
you.
to be like L. Ron Hubbard,
Right.
and he thought it was like one of the best movies he's ever seen. And I came out of that movie and I'm like, I just wasted 3 hours of my life. This is dog shit. It's terrible. And it's funny because again, we had very different opinions of what that movie was. But that's a situation where things didn't change over time.
Right.
That's a situation where I continue to hate this movie to this day, and he continues to love it. But that's the fun of it, because then we think back to those conversations where we're sitting down at dinner afterwards and being like, okay, but what did you think of the cinematography in this scene? Or why did they frame this thing in this way? Like, what was up with the music in this scene? Why was the writing so bad in this scene? Well, I love the writing in this scene. That's the kind of thing that, you know, it's fun. It creates those memories.
I think, like what you're saying, I think a lot of times when someone doesn't like a movie, it's because the focus group that they look for in movies wasn't done well, whereas the whole package of it could have been, but if their particular focus wasn't done well. But then having those conversations where if I like, generally what happens is a lot of my friends are movie pessimists. Like they come into the movie and negative. I don't look at reviews or the, you know, what the people like, spoilers, that kind of thing. I don't do that. I go in clean slate for the most part. And so I generally help them see a movie in a more positive light while acknowledging the negative stuff, but having those different conversations like, wow, so you focus on like this music or how this, like the father figures in the story operate and how that reflects on you as a person and those kinds of things. I love seeing how people absorb the media and content. And I got to see that with Film Red. I got to see how so many people felt the same way from very different angles, and we had that conversation with the Film Red on your stream about like,
the other day, right?
There were so many people who had similar feelings from different reasons, and then it almost came to a point where some of us liked the movie a little bit more because something someone else said, or liked the movie a little bit less, and it kind of like it stabilized, which is really cool to see. Also,
it did kind of stabilize around like 7. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It did.
And so like, and that's an important thing, because like, you know, regardless of what, you know, it's not fun to be in an echo chamber either. That's my thing, where it's like people are like, you know, you're talking to someone who doesn't agree with your theory. It's like, so like that's more fun.
That is the worst, man. That's the worst. I always hear that phrase too about echo chambers. It's like these people who go on Twitter and like every week it's the exact same tweet.
Right.
And you know the accounts I'm talking about, where it's like Goda delivered, oh my God, best chapter of all time, every single week. Not every chapter can be the best chapter of all time. It's just, it's objectively not true.
Right. And
not every chapter can be that. And there are weeks where, because they feel obligated to say something good about the chapter, they'll be like, oh, but this was the best thing ever. I love this thing. And in reality, I know the person behind the account is not thinking that. Unless they straight up are turning their brain off and they just don't care. They're just enjoying the fact that there's a new One Piece chapter. And there's plenty of people who are like that, and that's a valid way to enjoy the story too. Right? Like I feel that I'm not thinking critically when I'm sitting watching a new episode of Love is Blind on Netflix, right? I'm not sitting there going, oh, but what are their intentions in this scene? It's a reality show. I'm there for the drama. It's just funny. Like my brain is turned off.
Yeah. And some things are like that. And to that point, it's like I bring up Jay. I brought him on the stream at a time where he was catching a lot of flack for his reactions, because he's not enjoying the story right now as much as everyone else. And I understood why, and it felt like he was being misunderstood. So then it was like fleshing out that like he doesn't like the theory side of what we're talking about. What he likes is what we're getting right now, where we have the opening with Kuma and Bonnie and the backstory and the sentimentality and how someone makes a decision that Kuma made. He likes theorizing about that. So he probably finally got something that he really, really enjoys. But the larger note is like, we're all not going to enjoy the same thing regardless if we like the same story. We might love something for completely different reasons, and the thing that you love might be the thing that I don't love. And then that's how we either love something more or like it a little bit less. And it's all about, if you truly love something, it's about getting all the perspectives about that, learning as much as you can.
And you brought up a really good point, right? Is I think a lot of people who really liked Wano Country might not necessarily like this arc because of the reason why I like it, which is that we're jumping all over the place, finding out a ton of information. It's like a lore dump.
And that's perfectly fine.
I could care less about power scaling in fights. I never have. I don't care.
Right.
It's cool if the fight looks cool, like something like Blackbird or Law. If it's a really interesting matchup, then I'm into it. But like in terms of power scaling, it does not matter to me in the slightest. So like one of the biggest slumps in Wano for me is like the Tobi Roppo fights, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, here's the routine. They're fighting the regular person again. Here's this thing. And there were highlights in it for sure, like the Who's Who chapter with Jinbei revealing like the truth about the devil fruit for the first time. Robin finally having a one-on-one. Like there were really good moments within those fights. But that like slate of chapters for that 3 months, I was like, whatever, it was fine, you know. But some people love that. And then when we get to the lore dump stuff at the ending, they're like, oh, this is all really cool, but like I really want to get back to the main action. And you know, people are different in that sense. So yeah, I totally understand why someone who would like Wano or Dressrosa or Fishman, where you're in like one place, focused on one story for a really long time, might not necessarily like the way the chapters are jumping all around in something like a Reverie or an Egghead.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like,
I think it's the best.
I mean, this whole conversation was set up for this question, and I don't know which way you go with it, but now that you guys get an understanding of like where Roger comes from with why he likes certain things, doesn't like certain things, all in this like package, but then also like, you know, what he does, the video game stuff, and then how much we talked about Egghead currently. And you were at Comic-Con, you know, showing up the One Piece game, right? And you had a little, and you were saying like, I don't write manga, I don't write stories. But I pointed out, you know, like you have a director look at things, and you like, you know, and when you're making the series, you come up with the whole scene. And something you paused, a lot of us, it was a few creators and a few viewers also there standing there, and you pitched your greatest, what would be the best One Piece game to come out.
Yes.
And I would like you to share that, but also if you want to add like a little bit of a spice to it, because we didn't have Vegapunk stuff there. But if they were to make like a Pirate Warriors part, where, you know, they kind of finish the plot line after like a certain part, but they don't have the manga to finish that plot line, so they just make up their own things. How would you see, because you said there's a year left on Egghead, so like those two ideas, what's the best game that's separate, but then also how would you, if you were to write a One Piece game for this thing, how would it go?
For Egghead Island, you mean, specifically?
Yeah, or if you can go beyond that too, you can go beyond that.
I mean, I think we're bound to eventually get a One Piece game with Egghead Island stuff and whatever the future Pirate Warriors is going to be.
So this is Rogers Base's pitch for the next One Piece. You know, I joked about, because Randy Troy's in here, and he showed me and he described Hidden, and Randy introduced me to the One Piece games, and they were saying like, I think Pirate Warriors essentially makes like fan fiction because they don't have the manga. So this is Rogers Base's version of it, knowing that he's the embodiment of Luffy in real life, theater background, the reactions, you know, all the various takes. How do you see it? How do you see it, Roger?
So in terms of if I could have an ideal One Piece video game, and I think this is the thing you were talking about, it would be a mix of two games, basically.
Okay.
One is the exploration aspect would be Wind Waker, straight up. Legend of Zelda, the Wind Waker. You're on a boat, you're sailing to different islands, there's different stories on each island. It's open world, you could sort of explore it at your own pace. There's other little miniature islands where you could do little side quests. Everything kind of connects to an overall story, culminates in a really epic finale. It's got a great orchestrated soundtrack. Like, that is the core gameplay, right? You're exploring on an open sea, discovering things on a sea chart maybe. Like, that's great. Wind Waker.
Got it.
Combat-wise, though, I would love it if when you actually enter combat, like if you're doing, you know, you're entering a battle on the field in like a Dragon Quest or a Pokemon, you know, it goes into turn-based stuff a lot of the time. I would love if the combat of that game, when you're actually interacting with people, turns into like Dragon Ball Fighters-esque combat, right? Where it's 2D, fighting game style, but with that amazing animation style of Dragon Ball Fighters with the world of One Piece. Where you've got all the characters, whatever character you're playing as, utilizing their abilities in the fight, right? You've got Luffy going gear second, gear third, gear fourth. You've got Law going room, going all over the place. I think the mix of like a fighting game combat with Wind Waker, Wind Waker exploration would be like incredible. That to me is like the ideal One Piece experience, and I don't think we're ever going to get that. I think Odyssey is cool that we're getting like this turn-based RPG. I know I'm going to enjoy it. I think eventually we will get another One Piece fighting game. Maybe not necessarily like Burning Blood, but like I liked Burning Blood more than the average person, so I'd be down for that. I'd be down for another new one that's like Power Stone style, like the one that was on GameCube, like the Pirate Festival. I think that would be cool. But I think at some point a One Piece Fighters is kind of inevitable. I think there will eventually be an Arc System Works 2D One Piece fighting game.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's going to have the exploration aspect like the Wind Waker style stuff. I think it's going to be its own thing. And I think the exploration type game is going to be its own thing too. But I think if you merge them together, that's your best One Piece game of all time scenario. Yeah.
All right, so I already see a lot of people in support of this. They're like, I like this a lot. And
of
so
course,
I'm throwing up a poll right now. Would you buy Roger's One Piece game? And I already know the result, but this will be used as data accumulation to pitch to Toei eventually. Or
there you go.
So, I and when you said that, like, there's no point of disagreement. You could add things to that, but I think that's a great foundation for that.
Yeah. Because so much of the lore of One Piece and like what makes it special is exploration, right? So I think like World Seeker tried that a little bit to an extent to have an open world, but World Seeker all took place like on that island and on the other islands that were in the sky and stuff in the DLC. It wasn't like you were flying around and going to all these other different islands in the world of One Piece. It was just that one. And I think that was the downside of World Seeker. I think they focused too much on exploring one area as opposed to exploring the entire sea. Right, which is obviously such a huge part of One Piece.
Yeah. Do you think by the end of One Piece we get a game that's like when the world is fully fleshed out, they put down the effort and like commitment to do something as grand? And I think like also like I think the issue with the previous games is they're not a lot of oversight. They take what's available and they kind of like put things together to make like a game that's out there already, just One Piece themed, right? Versus at the end of One Piece, when we see the entire story, they could make like a full world kind of game. And I know that's been a talk on TikTok and various like smaller conversations about why isn't there a good One Piece game right now?
Right.
And not saying that the future ones may not be good.
Honestly, could be good. Yeah.
Right, but like I think it was like unanimous in terms of comments. A lot of people just heard your idea and was like, yes, this is like a Peak fan making a Peak game. Great directorship. Like he knows all the games to put together, which is why I brought up all the game topics. Was like Roger instantly knew where every character was from, and like he knows. Like his game knowledge is unfounded, like from the people I've met.
I think that's the thing that people are surprised by. I think when they meet me is I think they, like I am somewhat to an extent like as we all are as One Piece creators, kind of like a mini One Piece encyclopedia. Yeah. But like I am by no means a Tekking or a Liam, right? Like there are people that know every little thing, every little character, and like I screw up names. You do too. We're kind of the same way in this aspect, right? It's like we'll forget little minor things and we'll call other characters by the wrong names sometimes. Yeah, we'll call them by the way certain story arcs are built. But like the core part, we're obviously such big fans of the series that we remember mostly everything. Yeah. Whereas like Nintendo and video game stuff, I am like an encyclopedia. Like I grew up with that more so even than anime and manga. And like that's where my background came from initially in terms of like work. Is my first job out of college. I worked for Nintendo. I was a product demonstrator. So like. I've been going to E3 since I was 18. So like I have been in the world of video games and engrossed in that longer than I have been for One Piece. So yeah, when it comes to ideas for games or the way like certain anime and manga connect to games or what I like in games versus what I like in anime and manga, there is sort of like a shared vocabulary there of like, okay, I love orchestrated soundtracks. This is something that's going to make me like a game or make me like an anime. I like a really good story. This thing is going to make me like a game or like a manga, right? Like, I like the characters in this thing. I like the day-to-day, like the regular chapters of One Piece. I enjoy the average chapter of One Piece because there's a cool lore dump in it or there's a cool revelation or a cool fight. I like the day-to-day of playing something like Smash Brothers or Animal Crossing or Overwatch because I like playing those games every day. Like the routine of it is fun.
So So now I gotta ask, because you're a smart person. I know you're a smart person, and I'm wondering now that you have this grand, idea in the storage, and people know you're ambassador Nintendo. You were just at Comic-Con for Bandai, and and you're gonna be at Nintendo Worlds next year. And there's some details you shared with me. I don't know if you're allowed to share them, but and you love One Piece, and you have this idea for One Piece. Is this the Rogers grand master plan to get into the world and help them make a good One Piece game by the end of it?
No, but not at all. I don't want to make my own game. I don't care.
Do you want to, or that's not the plan?
I'm not somebody who I mean, look, if they paid me, if they were like, hey, would you want to be this director of some One Piece? Of course I would do it. Like, naturally, that's a paycheck. But I am not somebody who wants to make movies or wants to make games or wants to make manga. I like the discussion aspect of it. I like being a critic. It's fun. I enjoy so many things that I don't want to pigeonhole myself into doing one thing.
Right.
But of course, if there's a situation in which I could cameo in something, or I could be an actor in this thing, or do a voiceover for this thing, or host this event, one-off things I would love, of course.
Yeah.
But I have no overall desire to I want to be a film director. I want to make my own anime. I want to write my Joy Boy just wrote his own book. Great for Joy Boy. I have no desire to write my own book. I just don't. If I did ever do that, it certainly wouldn't be a work of fiction.
Right.
It would be me talking about my experience as a YouTuber or something. But that's not a thing I want to do.
Right.
I like creating for and as myself, if that makes sense. I like streaming and creating entertainment as Rogers Base for a Rogers Base audience, talking about a variety of different things. That is what brings me the most joy. I love hosting events, like when I did the Comic-Con one, you were talking about, or the one at Anime Expo where we were talking to Shimizu-san. That kind of thing is fun.
Right.
And then I don't have to pigeonhole myself into just doing one thing. But of course, on the topic of if Bandai or Nintendo were hey, we want to have you in a focus group and talk about what the next One Piece game should be. Well, obviously, I'm not going to turn that down.
Right.
If they're hey, would you want to be a producer for this thing? Of course. But I'm also realistic. I'm not going to be you know what? I have this great idea for a One Piece game. I'm going to use my connections to get into a meeting with Nintendo. Because I'm going to tell you a fun story.
Okay, fun story. Okay, all right, sit it.
Kind of timely, too, considering what's been going on recently.
Okay.
I was at E3. This was 2014 or 2015. No, it was 2015 or 2016. I was at the Nintendo Media booth, as per usual. I've told this story on Japan Time. I've told it on other occasions before. I was on the Nintendo Media booth list to go have an appointment to go play a bunch of games. Okay? Right. I'm thinking about it. This was 2016. This was definitely... No. 25th, it was for sure 2015. 2016 was Breath of the Wild year. 2015 was this. Gotcha. The story I'm about to tell you. Okay.
Yeah.
I go up to the media booth, the Nintendo media booth at E3, and I notice that the other employees that are there working for their PR company, Golan, they seem off. They seem like something's wrong. And I walk up to the booth to have my appointment. I'm like, hey, what's going on? And they go, oh, we'll tell you about it in a sec. And Miyamoto is there. Miyamoto who's created Mario and everything. He's inside the media booth. So I'm on the outside. He's on the inside of the booth. And it's its own little separate area on the show floor. He's in the booth with his back turned to somebody who I can't quite make out.
Right.
But I hear them talking. Right. And then the voice sounds familiar. This person leaves that he's talking to through a back door, behind where the media booth area is, and they allow... T-Speed knows this story already, because I've told this before. And I walk in to the media booth with me and my buddy, and we're talking to the Golan people, and we're like, what the heck just happened there? What was that about? And Chad, who still works there, shout out to Chad, he's great, is like, okay, don't talk about this yet, but that was just Kanye West. And me and my buddy are like, what? So let me explain what happens. Kanye walks into the media booth, the private media booth you have to have an appointment for, walks into the media booth, makes a beeline for Miyamoto, and goes, bro, I grew up loving Mario, I love Mario, you're going to make my game. I'm making a mobile game, you're going to make my game, bro, you're going to make my game.
Oh, jeez.
And starts ranting at Miyamoto about how Miyamoto's going to make his game. And Miyamoto's not speaking fluent English. He's there with his translator. The translator's obviously not translating this unhinged tirade that Kanye's doing about making his game. And the translator's just there, smiling and nodding. Yeah. And Miyamoto's smiling and nodding. And then Kanye leaves.
Right.
And the look on all the Golden employees' faces and all the other Nintendo employees' faces,
Yeah.
like, at some point, I know I want to have Kit and Krista on Japan Time to talk about the story, like, in depth, because they were in the booth when this happened. I was on the outside part, and I just heard about it afterwards. But, like, that idea of waltzing into some place and just being like, bro, like, I'm who I am, bro. Like, here's all the stuff I'm going to do. Boom, like, here. Could you imagine the audacity, the ego of me to walk into, like, a Nintendo appointment or to walk into, like, one of my Bandai meetings to be like, bro, I'm Roger's face. So here's my idea of, like, a One Piece game, bro. Here's what should happen, because I know this is what... That's ridiculous.
Right.
Absolutely, positively ridiculous. So I think about that story in my head of how Kanye waltzed into the Nintendo booth, tiraded at Miyamoto for 15 minutes, and then left. And, like, how we all thought about him after that. When we were like, what was this unhinged thing that he just did? That makes me think, like, I would never want to be like that. I would never, ever want to be like that and be that person to just walk in to a private Japan appointment.
And not even, like,
Miyamoto.
Culturally aware, too, right?
Not
like,
even aware of the situation. Exactly.
Right. Like, I would have brought my own translator who I told my message, like, prior and prepped everything so it would be understandable.
Right.
And, like... Yeah, like, that's business 101.
I would bring a translator.
Yeah.
I would set an appointment up. I would go through the process. Right?
Yeah.
So
with that, right, like...
That was the moment I lost so much respect for... And now I definitely... Kanye can go stuck a bag of you-know-what. I don't care anymore. Kanye sucks now. But back then, I was like, bro, this is when, obviously, I don't care. And people are like, okay, but Roger, you're not Kanye. Bro, that just goes to show, like... This is a prop. This goes back to the Goda conversation. Let's talk about this a little bit. Because I know we talked about this at Comic-Con. The idea that people put people on pedestals because of their artistry as being gods, like you're actually, and I mean this genuinely, like you're sick in the head. If you think that way about people genuinely, you're sick in the head. Because nobody is like that. You could love somebody's art and respect them as an artist and disagree with their opinions. But the second you start putting somebody on a pedestal and you're suddenly a yes man for this person and everything is good at all, that's a problem, bro.
Yeah.
That is a huge, massive problem. And you absolutely need to, like, take a step back and reevaluate your life, because you should never be like that with anyone ever. People always say, like, don't meet your heroes. You got to remember, like, Miyamoto, Oda, Kanye West, they're all people just like you and me who have their own opinions about things.
Flaws,
like,
issues, life.
We all have our own opinions about things. But the second, and I wouldn't want people to do this for me either. Like, all of my regular viewers in my chat or whatever, they've disagreed with me on multiple occasions, and that's great. I like that. I like having the back and forth. But the second you surround yourself with yes men, right? Like, the second you surround yourself with yes men and everything you do is good and everything is amazing, you've lost the plot, bro.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you're a normal human being. You know what I mean?
This is something like me and Braga were talking about too. It's like with content creation, especially, it's like you were talking about this. One of the reasons why you wouldn't want to do something is like you like putting out Rogers based content. You like putting out things that you have full handle on, and by proxy people get to know who you are. And but even that limit is like you don't know Roger, right? I wouldn't operate like when I was Nintendo. You were like, come closer, like be more friendly. I'm like, I don't, I don't want to act like I know you.
Of course, right. But I think that's respectable, right? Because you have respect for your fellow human beings and you can read a room.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of people who can't read a room, or their ego makes them think they are more important than they are, when in reality they are still a human being. Like, I think people always say this about me. They're like, oh, bro, Rogers has such an ego because he'll disagree with opinions and stuff. It's like, that's not it at all. It's that the way I come across can definitely be a lot for people, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't know me and they don't understand that that's the way that I'm communicating my opinion, and I'm looking for somebody to share their opinion with me.
Right.
But when I do something wrong, like in the case of me calling everybody an idiot who didn't like Big Mom's Amnesia thing, I could easily take a step back, evaluate myself, and be like, oh, that was not right that I said that. Like, I shouldn't be like that. You know what? I could have done better in that situation. And that's so important, right?
Yeah.
Is being able to self-reflect and be like, I was wrong in this instance. Let me just do better. Yeah. That's it. Like, and there's a lot of people, especially nowadays, that don't want to do that. And I think that's a problem.
Yeah.
Which is why I stick to my happy little Rogers Base YouTube channel and do collabs with people that I genuinely like and just talk about things that I'm passionate about, and that's that. So
So something that I've said, because as weird as it sounds, like people have said they look up to me, like with the channel, like making things, and there's been a few creators who made channels for that. And the thing that I always say, and I said this on the Brago stream, is I say like, don't look up to me, look forward, look forward to me, which is essentially meaning like, you know, if you're treating me like a role model, then I expect you to be beyond me at some point. Like, you know, like, especially if you're younger too, like, you know, if I inspired you, then I'm going to end at some point and you're going to be ahead of me. And so it's not looking up to me, it's looking forward to me, because you're probably not that far behind either. So it's like, you know, there's so many things that like I try to put my best foot forward on the internet, but like, you know, you guys, there's so many talented people in the community as well that just it's just they're held back by like this idea of being like perfect. And you were talking about that earlier on the stream, on your stream the other day, where it's like start from wherever you are and build to wherever you want to be, right? And that's kind of like what it is. And building yourself up to be an egotistical god isn't like if you respect Oda,
the wrong way,
if you respect Oda, if you respect any of the people, they're not gods, because if you truly respected them, then they're as human as you are, and you can eventually be there, right?
And the thing with that in particular too is like, obviously the Goda thing is a great meme. Everybody loves it. We're like, oh God, but I would hope that most people that watch me or watch you or whatever, or like all of our friends, we don't want to put that pressure on Oda. He's the person at the end of the day. He's going to make mistakes. Certain chapters aren't going to be good, and that's fine. But we're praising him, and it's fun in the moment. But like in actuality, again, like to put the pressure like that on someone like Oda is not right, because he's a human being at the end of the day. So and you don't want to always have this idealized version of someone in your head, because ultimately, no matter what, they're in some capacity, they're not going to meet one of the expectations that you set up for them. Everyone. Regardless of, they could be the nicest, sweetest person in the world, they will still let you down in some way. And it's important to be able to acknowledge that and be like, this doesn't affect me interacting with their stuff or whatever. You know?
Exactly. I think I call it like, it's a boundary. You have to like be smart with boundaries in life, and that is one of those boundaries. Because
nowadays so many people have like parasocial relationships with people that are on YouTube, right? It's like people consider people friends who are watching you. And in reality, like you said, like, no, you're a viewer or you're like someone who supports my content, but like, you are not my friend in real life. Whereas like we have met in real life, right? We've hung out. We are actually friends, whereas not everybody is like that, and there's a difference there. And knowing that boundary, and knowing when you can speak up, or you know when you could maybe say, "Hey, I have this idea for this thing." That's like important. It's important to know.
And Ty saying in the chat, I hope people don't call Oda Goda in real life. I know he'll look at us crazy, which is in the entirety of like the Skypiea arc, right? Like gods are like Luffy is like, why worship people? Well, that's so lame. You know what I mean? Like Oda would look at that the very same way, in my opinion.
100%.
And you know, going back to the thing where you know, you brought the Kanye thing. I think the difference, and I'm not saying you to do this. The reason why I brought this up is a different reason. Is I think you understanding that awareness is like something, and the boundary, and I think you're responsible in the way you portray yourself, but that also lends itself to you're being genuine. The reason why I brought the gaming thing is that I equate you similar to Matt Owens in that regard with the live action, where Matt Owens like felt like, you know, from my conversation with him, he felt like this thing was happening and I would rather be the mega fan that I am to steer the ship, right? And after getting to talk to him, I think all of us in that room were essentially like, he's like the best person to do this kind of thing.
Easily. Regardless of how the show turns out, I think it's a testament to it wouldn't have worked in the first place. He literally is the best person to be working on that show. Like, if anyone is going to make One Piece live action work, it's going to be him. And if it didn't work, that wasn't on him entirely.
It's like the ship.
It was not going to work. Exactly.
He's the best pilot.
He could not have a better person. He's going to be awesome.
And in that regard, I equate you with the video game stuff. Now that I know you with the video,
now I understand how you're equating it.
And so the reason why I asked that is because I find myself in weird places in the future, in the past, and where it was able to connect things. And I'm not saying that this, but if there's ever a moment where there's ever like, hey, who should work on the future One Piece game with Nintendo,
of course.
Bandai, I'm gonna be spearheading the Roger needs to be on this team. And like sometimes I see it this way where it's like sometimes the best person for a job is the person who doesn't want the job. And I think that also lends itself to you being that, because like I think like a lot of people came into the thing and saying like, I don't really care for the games, and it's like, I want the games to be good. You know what I mean?
We don't want them to just be cranking out bad One Piece games. If they're gonna make a One Piece game, we want the game to be good.
Yeah, and like I have various ideas, and you know, this is something I want to put on stream with you. Whereas someone actually, an indie game creator, contacted me to help write the story of the thing, and they're One Piece fan, and so I was just like, oh wait, hold on, Roger, if I make this thing, would you play that on stream?
Yeah, of course I would. That's content right there. Playing ParVision's game, let's roast it. Like, that's great.
Roast, that's exactly what it is. And
or if I would genuinely like it, then have fun with it. I mean, that's like, of course. I'm gonna read Joy Boy's book. Definitely, I'm gonna read Joy Boy's book. I don't know when I'm gonna get time, but I'm for sure gonna read it, and that's for sure gonna be content. It's gonna be me reviewing Joy Boy's book. So, I mean, that's, of course, you want to support your friends if they're doing cool stuff. Like, I want to watch the One Piece Netflix to support Matt and the whole team working on it. I want to play your game that you're writing the script for. I want to read Joy Boy's book. Like, that's the fun of it. I want to do that. I want to support my friends. If Randy's working on a project, I want to go watch the project that he's working on.
And I'm going to speak this into existence, and you may not be happy about it, but I want to play a Rogers-based One Piece game. Or Rogers-based game, period. Yeah, I want to play that.
I'll, at the very least, I'll hire a translator. I won't just burst into the door.
One way or another, I feel like it's something that I think a lot of people will be happy about, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And it'll be a lot of fun, and it's like supporting, but then also like it's one of those memory things, like 40 years from now, my kids playing, you know, this One Piece game, like my friend made this or helped make this game, was a part of that, you know what I mean? And like we talked about this years before it was made or something like that. So you know, that's something. And I think like another aspect of something I wanted to ask you was you like almost inserting yourself in the story, but not being in the story. But knowing that you're a theater person, is there a One Piece character that, I mean, in the live action, if there's second season, third season, or whatever?
Big News Morgans.
Big News Morgans. Okay, so that was okay. Big News Morgans.
I've told Matt that literally. I've said that exact thing. I told him that directly. I was like, obviously, Big News Morgans is not involved in the story at all in the pre-time skip. But if there's some way, somehow, to work him in as a cameo or something, and you need somebody in the Big Bird suit, I got you. Like, I'm dead serious. Like, I've told him that multiple times. I'm like, when you do Big News Morgans, you get me in that audition room. If you ever get to him.
That's fun. That's fun. Big News Morgans is a great, and oh man, and you told me that.
With the channel, I think Morgans is genuinely funny. I relate to the newsman aspect of like always looking for the scoop or something. I love it. I think that is with the Nintendo release. You were on that. If they need somebody for a third or fourth season or whenever they would do that, to go on screen with the bird outfit on, going, "This is big news!" Like, easy. I got it. I got you.
Okay. Don't worry about it. Okay. I'm looking.
I've got the flamboyant arms. They would go perfect with wings.
Yeah.
You put the duckbill on me, bro. I'm here for it.
Reindeer said that's so flamboyant as well. Yo, this is perfect.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah.
Wow. You gotta do a little voice audition then sometime.
I'm telling
in the future.
You, man. That's it.
Do you already have something like that? Do you have your on stream?
I do actually have a reel. I do have a reel because I've done voice work in the past. So yeah.
Okay. We'll check that out sometime in the future. So I asked a lot of the questions. I'm sure we're going to get so many more conversations between us in the future. Tons. So we don't have to stuff everything together. But I did, the main aspects of like, we're in a video game arc. This is so exciting. I know you're happy. Blast from the past, seeing the future. If you do that Matt B conversation with Dragon and Kuma,
I would love to.
Yeah. Definitely looking forward to seeing that, hearing the nostalgia of that conversation too. Because I think you enjoy. Like you said something earlier, like you love when things connect, and that's funny because that's like entire point of my channel, making connections. No matter how goofy the connections are,
That's
it's
why
just
your
fun.
channel is good. That's why you make good videos, right?
Thank
'Cause
you.
They're enjoyable. Yeah.
And I, when you said that at the very beginning of the stream, I was not like, of all the things I planned out for stream, I was not expecting to get Roger's base to say you're my favorite theorist. That was not in the
Easily.
cards.
Yeah, because they're fun. Because I feel like, again, I've been in this game for a long time at this point now, and I've heard almost every theory. Like,
Right.
every theory I've heard. When people are like, "Oh, did you hear about the Kraken theory? Did you hear about the?" It's like, yes, I've multiple times on multiple streams. Yes, it's not new. Like, you're gonna be nice to someone if they're telling you, "Oh, talk about this theory." Like,
Right,
what are your
right.
thoughts on this thing? Even if I've regurgitated it like 100 different times on a stream.
Yeah.
But with your stuff specifically. You bring up stuff that I've never heard before. I never heard the Zoru mushroom thing, stronger rocks, like the shadows thing that you brought up on the Reverie. Like, you genuinely have very different, original, very fresh takes that are not your cut and dry. Here's what I think the final fights are going to be. Here's what I think Dragon's power is. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like someone in your chat just said a 3-day trip said Par walks the line of madness. You do. You toe the line of like being so out there that it's ludicrous, but you enjoy it. Like, I see you as the ancient aliens of the One Piece community, right? Where like you watch Ancient Aliens, and you don't believe half the stuff they're saying, but you're like, dang, wouldn't this be cool if this was real? You know what I mean? Like, that's what makes your stuff enjoyable.
And it's funny because like Oda is almost that writer at times where it's like I talk about the Zoro plant thing and then he doesn't need to do it, but then in 2 chapters ago they call Zoro a plant again. It's like it's like, that joke was like people were like, is Oda just in his basement listening to all the theories? Like, it's so fun.
I will say for sure, I know for a fact a couple YouTubers that Oda watches. For a fact. I know some.
He confirmed on the editor note in this chapter that he watches YouTube to a heavy degree.
I know the list. Which is fun.
Yeah.
That's an off-camera thing.
All right.
That's, I think, the other reason why I'm like, we'll go by the flow. I can say whatever I want. It's fun.
Yeah.
So but I know some of them for sure. For a fact, I know some. Yeah.
All right. We'll talk about that later.
I don't know all of them, but I know a couple for sure.
So
from people who would know.
So let me get through some of these super chats, and then we'll get back to
let's do it.
Closing out, winding out the stream with some conversation.
Let's do it.
So Zekin earlier on gave I keep forgetting the currency this is, but thank you for the super chat. He said no one knew Game of Thrones books before Game of Thrones show. One Piece's live action could elevate One Piece to world fame. East Blue's story is good enough, but what should be cut? The comedy. Interesting. I would argue against that from the live action.
I also argue against that. Yeah. They should not cut the comedy. I think you have to have some type of
pull.
Yeah, not only a pull, but like you have to have something that like lightens the mood a little bit, because the core of One Piece is it's a goofy pirate manga, right? Like, there is goofy. I hate to use that phrase, and I always like troll Liam about it, but it's true. It's like it is still a goofy, fun series, and so if you eliminate the goofiness from it, I think it won't have the same impact on people as it did for all of us reading it originally. You need to have that levity, exactly.
Right. Yeah, I think the comedy, especially in the East Blue, is done. Like my wife just watched through all the way up to like Arabasta, I believe, and I didn't show her One Piece because like I just wanted she wanted to watch what I watched, which was I was like, you don't have to do that to yourself. But she watched it and she enjoyed it, and she comes from a world that watches more of like the actor television kind of America kind of stuff. She's not connected to the anime world, and so the live action is made for that demographic more so than our demographic. So a lot of the things that went well there, I would imagine would go well in the live action. It's
definitely.
Like I think where some things are going to get lost, and I think all the creators agreed upon this, was the post-production CGI, like the animation stuff. That's where a lot you see that with Marvel.
I agree.
How much slack that they got from She-Hulk, for example. Like there's so many different aspects where like I think back to like the 90s CGI. I'm like, hey, we made waves since then. I'm grateful for that. As long as we're not going back to some of those things, I'm happy.
I don't think. I mean, this is something I could safely say, right? Like, people know that I went on the set now. People know I visited, and that I recorded a lot of stuff. I was amazed by the amount of stuff that's practical in that in that show. There's a lot of stuff they built out, really cool things that when you see it, I think you're going to think it's CG, but it's not. Right. And that was a big thing that impressed me, like walking through the prop department and seeing some of this stuff like actually made. Bruh, I think that aspect people are going to be thrilled with the live action. I really do.
Especially
people aren't expecting some of the really cool stuff that's going to be in there.
I'm not going to say explicitly, but Rogers definitely left a mark there, and it's.
Oh yeah. Don't tell that story yet.
Yeah, I'm not saying the story. I'm not saying the story.
Your friend Danny. When me and Matt tell you you're allowed to tell that story after the show comes out, we can talk about it. But
yes. But the reason why I brought that up is because that was only possible by how like reality was there. You know, like if they didn't bring reality to the show, you couldn't have left your mark there, which is the funniest part of it, because you were essentially to paraphrase the story. Roger's basically like, I can't handle reality right now. Right. So he handed off the reality. That was pretty funny.
Bro, it's gonna be wild, man.
Yeah, when that's revealed, definitely think back to what I said, because I think it's Roger knows what I'm talking about, and you guys don't.
What we're talking about, for sure. Well, because it was the thing we were talking about at drinks afterwards. Right?
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
So
it's very cool.
Mr. Bushido with the super chats, a few of them. So also made a member.
All right.
So he said you typed to pred. I don't know what that means, but Doc Q uses a power called Black Death, and Law uses his room on Beppo, forcing a Sulong for him. Beppo is prediction. Beppo is proof why Carrot as a lookout is needed. Oh my!
I've given up hope. I love Carrot. I've given up hope. I'm done. No more.
Mr. Bushido is the biggest Carrot copium theorist out there, and he will find, if there's a Carrot in the panel, he will find it and be like, there she is. She is here still.
I want nothing more. I know plenty of people that want. I know Matt Owens wants Carrot. I know Reagan wants Carrot. I know a lot of people want. I know Teching wants Carrot. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think it's happening anymore. No.
She's queen. Everyone should be happy. She's Duchess of.
The moment I kind of relegated myself to the fact that, like, she's not going to join, was when I had that theory about after Punk Hazard that Monet's Devil Fruit would end up on the ship, right?
Yeah.
And it would transfer the nearest fruit, which had been the tangerine tree on the back of the Sunny.
Right.
And that chapter at the very beginning of Whole Cake, where they're starving, right? And they're starving, and Luffy makes the disgusting food and all that.
Yeah.
I thought, man, this is it. This is going to be it. They're going to be starving. They're going to eat the tangerines off the tree. One of them's going to be a devil fruit. Nami or Carrot's going to get the Monet power. And I kept, like, I was so, especially because there were the little snow bunnies underneath the water as they let Punk Hazard. It was too clear. I'm like, this is going to happen. And then on top of it, there were snow bunnies and Carrot's a white rabbit. I was like, this is going to be it. The second that didn't happen and Carrot didn't eat Monet's fruit, I kind of resigned myself to this isn't going to happen now.
Right.
Because I thought it was so perfect for the story, and that could have been such a natural way to integrate that in.
Yeah.
That, like, when it didn't happen, I just went, okay, well, then it's just not going to. And as much as I would love it, I just don't think it's going to happen. Yeah.
So with the Carrot thing, this is my personal experience with the Carrot world was so interesting, because I was anime only, and I was disconnected from I didn't know it existed. So when I came in and I'm making theories, I'm starting live reactions, and then for some reason, like, the Carrot, like, everyone's like focused on Carrot. I'm like, what is this coming from? And so I got a full lore dump from so many creators, so many viewers, and I'm like, wow, this was a thing that like I have so much FOMO that I wasn't a part of this. Like, 'cause I don't believe it. I didn't think that deeply about it being anime only and disconnected, which I imagine was grown out of how connected the community was at the time, weekly reading, making the theories.
Especially because, like, that was at that time on Zoe, just post the end of Dressrosa going into Zoe was like the wave that me, Joy Boy, and Tekking really came up on. In terms of One Piece. Tekking obviously already had a huge audience with Bleach before, but I mean, in terms of his One Piece stuff, all three of us, like, rose on that wave. And so all of that Carrot stuff, like Carrot being introduced during Zoe, we have a lot of nostalgia for that character because she was so ingrained in, like, when our channels kind of blew up. And so That's it's a big part as to why. But like, I will always love Carrot no matter what, and I still think Sulong Carrot's great, and I'm sure she'll do something cool by the end of the story.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I've given up hope that she'll join the Straw Hats.
Yeah. I have no doubts in my mind. She's gonna be important. The roles that she's given is super important. Zunisha has to come back, and what we learned about
the leader of Zoe, if she's the new head of the dukedom, like great. You know?
Now we know that Zunisha can show up anywhere, anytime.
Yeah.
A flick of like, we don't even know what called him, but like. Zunisha's coming,
Zunisha.
exactly.
Yeah.
Zunisha's coming, Carrot's coming. So
yeah,
I think like this is what I was telling a lot of the Carrot fans at the time, because I was just trying to console them at the time, because there was a lot of crying in my Discord, and I was like, hey, listen, at least Carrot got promotion. It's all good for Carrot. It's looking good. And honestly, because of the way the story is, by adding more characters in the forefront, we lose the focus on the forefront. And so because of that, Usopp, Brook, Carrot, they didn't get a lot of focus that they should have if they were going to be, part of the crew. And with that, by having Carrot off screen, look how much development Oda was willing to put in off screen situations. This Blackbeard situation should tell you that Oda cooks in off screen situations just as much as he does us on screen. And
absolutely.
And so we should all be excited for that, for sure.
Absolutely.
So Mr. Bushido joined it again 5 months as a member, said, notice that Luffy is calling Bonnie by her name, and this connects to your next one that says, could Bonnie be a Straw Hat? Still Carrot is joining. So Bonnie being a Straw Hat, I'm not a big fan of like people necessarily being crewmates. Like if it happens. For me, it's kind of like everyone's friends, right? Like you're invited to the home, essentially. That's what it means when like Luffy said that to Kinemon, Yamato, Momo. It's like, you're invited into my home. This is my home. We're close enough where you could be on my home. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's how I see it.
I think after Wano, especially, I'm done now. I mean it. I'm genuinely like done with the blank for Straw Hat thing. I'm done. There's no fun in it anymore, because there were two ample opportunities with Carrot and with Yamato to have characters join, that for neither of them to join after all of that, after, how long was it since Zoe was first? That was 2014, 2015?
824 was the last chapter.
So okay, that would have been, 7 years or something? Like, 7 years that we've been touting Carrot for Straw Hat.
Yeah.
4 years, well, not 4 years, but 2 at least for Yamato, at least. To have gone through that twice, amidst all the other stuff with Jinbei, I'm just done. It's like it's one of those aspects of the community now. I don't even find it funny when people bring it up. I don't think it's enjoyable to even think about. I have no fun like theorizing about it. I'm just kind of like, okay, if someone joins, if Oda wants somebody to join, great. We're gonna have all these honorary members, fine. Vivi, Yamato, whatever. But like, I'm done in terms of blank for Straw Hat.
Laughing because I didn't get to experience this, and I almost, not that I want to, I'm not saying that I want to be in your position with this theory, because what I'm more meaning like is like eventually I'm going to be a part of the community accepting this theory and then be rudely awakened that this wasn't the case and being sad with the community in that regard. And like, I'm like, dang, like I didn't get to experience that. And like, I'm like also amazed that that's how, like, for lack of better words, like, whether the community wasn't tightly knit, that demonstrates to me that there was some camaraderie there. You know what I mean?
For sure. I mean, a lot of people wanted Carrot to join, obviously, but I think the thing that really, which is why I don't even feel bad and like why I'm making a meme out of it and doing like the whole biggest L stream is I would not have changed a thing that I would have said or done differently. Not one. Because everything leading up to the story, up to that point, everything, regardless of how people want to go, oh, I didn't think Yamato should join. I think a lot of people just straight up didn't like Yamato as a character and didn't want Yamato to join because of Yamato.
I loved Yamato, but I didn't think that she was going to join. But I think she might later.
But there's a difference between not thinking and not wanting.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I wanted Yamato to join, but I also was not going to be upset if Yamato didn't. But it was clear from the positioning of the merchandise, clear from the way they were writing it in the story, clear from saying I'm going to be the next Straw Hat, all this other stuff, that Yamato would join. And Yamato not joining is just like, well, then why did we spend so much time on this godforsaken character in Wano Country
Right.
if that didn't lead to this thing? There's no
Yeah.
point in doing this. Like, there's a way that all of that stuff could have been trimmed down significantly. The only reason it was there was to bait the reader. Really?
Right.
So for me, I don't feel bad falling for it because you were supposed to fall for it.
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to.
It almost feels like Yamato. There was two directions where Yamato could have been their own
Right.
character, or Yamato was created to give Odin more context. But
Right.
by putting Yamato in the direction of own character, it took away from both, and then we ended up in like the middle, which didn't feel good for either camp.
Right.
Because I
And
think
it was-
a lot of the
yeah, go
people
ahead, go ahead.
a lot of the people who thought that Yamato wasn't joining, they didn't like the outset of Wano until we got that flashback chapter where she randomly
Sure.
just said it, and it could have been done in a better way, and we're just left questioning the structure and if like everything came out the way it was originally intended, or things were rushed or things like that. That's never a good feeling. And so for having people on both sides of the camp thinking that same way, that tells you that there's a larger problem at hand with how a character was received by a community.
I also think, like, dude, the whole thing with Yamato's identity too was just like exhausting as a creator, because it would change on a dime week to week. And so I've gotten to the point still to this day, I just say Yamato. I don't
Same.
use pronouns. I just say Yamato.
I try my
Because
best to,
at
yeah.
the tip of a hat, something can change.
Yeah.
Like, Oda will write something some way, and something will change, or there'll be a Viva card, and I worry that if I ever choose one, it ages the video poorly.
Right.
So I'm just like, I'm going to do Yamato. People could say what they want to say, whatever. Personally, for me, Yamato felt like a Mulan kind of character, right? And I think there was a direction in which the story was going where that could have been expanded upon, of like being the child of this warlord that's in Wano, but there can't be women in charge, and you have to be a man to be a leader, and like what that means for the country. But like, all
wasn't
of
fleshed
it
out.
doesn't matter. Right, it wasn't fleshed out. And so
Yeah.
in reality, it seemed like Yamato as a character created so much more negativity and weird toxicity in the fandom that like didn't need to be there at the time.
Yeah.
It was just exhausting. And I'm saying that as somebody who likes Yamato, right?
Yeah.
But I also am like, I'm happy we've moved on from that now.
I think Hidden
Yeah.
Island, he has the Japan perspective. He went there. His wife is Japanese. So during that time, he had a stream, and on stream, he was just explaining the nuance. And this is something that I know of because I grew up around a lot of Asian families with families back home. And so I'm closely tuned into like more of the Eastern culture. And when I saw all the things, I was like, this is more normal in Eastern culture. They probably don't bat an eyelash. And that's very much what Hidden was saying in regards to Yamato, that the emphasis that the Western side put onto the nuance of her character and the negative or positive aspects in Japan's population, they kind of just read that and accept everything. They just accept everything that's happening and don't bat an eyelash as an issue or not an issue. And it's kind of like we also have to realize that this is a frame of another culture perspective that we're not experiencing on the daily, but they are. And this is like, this should be a window to serve into like, hey, if this is an issue there, then like not questioning our perspective necessarily, like changing the conversation of like, what are we missing and how do we add to the conversation for it to be tasteful? Because I think you can have the conversation about it, but that's the issue.
Without getting toxic. But exactly, that's the issue, is when you're on Twitter or when you're on, forums or whatever, people are just like so angry. Yeah. And you can't even have the conversation. If you say the amount of times where like during the chapters when, Yamato was in the bath, I would say he in the thing, because that was the whole thing for a little bit of a time. It was like, okay, using male pronouns, I'll go with it. Who cares? Yeah. It's like, I'm going to go with it, and that's fine. And people got so mad at me. They're like, she, what are you talking about? And then vice versa. When the Viva card came out, and it was like Kaido's daughter, and then people started using she, people got mad again. And it's like, first off, it's a fictional character at the end of the day, right? Yamato is a fictional character. They're fictional. But I also feel like there's no harm in like just going with the way the story's going. You know what I mean? If they say daughter, then we say she, whatever. If they say he, we say he. It doesn't like it doesn't bother me one way or the other. It's not like anything that's gonna thoroughly affect my enjoyment of the series.
I care more about learning from the series.
To know more about the character.
Yeah,
I could care less. Yeah.
Or if we're having this conversation, make it meaningful to learn from, right? Not attack someone for not understanding them. How about help them understand, right? Like that's the conversation that needs to be had. And I feel like a lot of the things Oda does is to create that conversation, right? If we didn't have that, this character, this conversation wouldn't be had. Is this conversation difficult to have? Yes. It doesn't need to be done very delicately. Yes. Sure. You know, can we fault him for maybe not doing everything perfectly in a Western perspective? Sure, maybe. But I think what's larger is like, hey, if the Eastern side doesn't have a problem, how about we learn about why? You know what I mean? There's a whole side of the world that's not complaining about this thing, and we're in our echo bubble shouting at each other.
Didn't care. Exactly. Yeah. Japan literally didn't care. It was the kind of thing like, oh, cool, all right, Yamato's in the men's bath. Perfect. Because, you know, Yamato's like one of the guys. It's like there's no...
Not just that.
That's it. I mean, it's in the story. It's not like, it's not some weird political statement. It's like, that's what it is. Yamato's one of the dudes.
Also in Japan and Korea, they have mixed baths, and we don't have that in our culture.
But I mean the panel that got like everyone angry.
Right.
Where it was like Kiku was in the women's bath and then Yamato was in the men's bath, and so many people were like up in arms about this. And it's like, bro, it's a minor scene. It's a cute scene. To be like Yamato hanging out with the dudes, basically. You know, like it was cool. Like there was nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
and people got so angry, it was wild.
The reason why I brought up the bathhouse thing, the mixed bathhouse thing, is because the way I saw it was, aside from a few elements that are gag elements, is like nothing's being sexualized and everything's just body, like it's a human body, and that's how the Eastern side views a lot of things. It's like, oh, I just went to a Korean spa and it's like old dudes, young dudes, they're all butt naked in the spa thing, and it's like if you almost, that's the environment, and that'd feel weird if you just came in with a Western perspective, but that's how it is in other countries. It's way more comfortable. Aunts, uncles, everybody, because you're not objectifying people, and that is the educational part of that conversation I wish was talked about more, but that wasn't talked about. And that's the toxicity thing that we're talking about here, where it's like so many of these conversations can be done better, and I hope that, like, you know, me and you talking about that helps people bring more nuance to the conversation, because it's not a conversation that's not going to end. Yesterday there was a stream about that conversation, right?
And which is just wild to me that it's still like a thing. Like it literally doesn't matter. It's fine. Like if someone sees themselves in Yamato and their experience in Yamato, let them own that experience. Like there's no, like, it's not hurting you. Just let them do it. Whatever. Yeah. That is just mind blowing to me. It's like, it's a fictional character. I don't get it. Like, there's no way to be up in arms about it. It's wild. Like you said, it's a nuanced conversation, and people getting so upset about it was just like bizarre. Which is, that's why I'm just like, cool, Yamato, move on, and I'm good. But I do like the character, and I hope to come back. At the end of all of it, I do like the character.
So, I think I have a few theories coming out for Yamato and Big Mom, which might explain the amnesia thing, by the way. I just want to put that out there. But Mr. Bushido, we'll move on to the next super chat. Mr. Bushido with the 10 euros, thank you. He said, I think Killer might be something like Sanji, but was created by Vegapunk. Kid will show up in Egghead because Carrot got on his ship by mistake and he returns her, and we will then get their backstory. Daft Punk mask is the connection that he's drawing to, which a lot of people are bringing up Uteron as one of those YouTubers that Oda might watch, because Shaka has the mask that looks like Uteron's, and the larger picture is that's Daft Punk. Daft Punk has that mask, and we know Oda loves music, and Daft Punk is internationally
also Vegapunk is the name. I mean, that's like the very obvious thing. And obviously Uteron gets it from Daft Punk. It's the exact thing that, so it's yes. It
and
works
so
on multiple fronts.
Mr. Bushido is saying Killer's mask is similar to Daft Punk mask, and so there could be a connection where Kid I mean, a lot of people thought Kid and Vegapunk would be connected. I guess to boil down this question, do you think Kid and Killer will show up on Egghead? Because my take is, I think they're having a separate story at the moment.
I think so too. I think they're off doing something else. I don't think so. No.
I think a lot of people also want this to just be a Straw Hat arc.
I could also maybe see them doing something similar with Kid and Killer, kind of like what we're seeing with Law right now, where it's like a standalone thing, meanwhile on this other island. I think the next time we see Kid and Killer, I think it's going to be looking for the person with the burn. right? That's the whole thing that they're
Yeah.
looking for. So I don't think they're necessarily going to Egghead for that. I think that's their mission. That's where they're off to. And when we see them again, we'll see them interacting with the person with the burn on their face. Yeah.
Right.
Whoever
Yeah.
that is.
I think
Gabon, apparently, is
Yes.
what people are saying. So,
he's,
okay.
I mean, I want Scopper back. I think he'd be a cool person to add on.
But the Scopper thing was weird because I don't remember him with a burn on his face.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are throwing in headcanon that like we in the past 20 years. Yeah.
Exactly, right.
I don't.
Like, okay.
The Scopper thing for me was Law and Blackbeard. They're on an unknown island, but we named it Winner's Island, which is like
Right.
it could have just been a random island. So one of my headcanons was like maybe Scopper Gabon is just on his island and we get debuted, and that's how this thing gets diffused in a way where there's not losses necessarily, but there's a similar Amazon Lily situation where Rayleigh showed up, diffused it, Blackbeard got something out of it, not what he wanted. Similar thing here. Blackbeard might leave with something that he wants. Law leaves like injured or something, and Scopper Gabon is the one who diffuses it. And that would be an interesting way to finally bring back Scopper. And the reason why I think he's important is because his name, Scopper, which is like gold, silver, copper. So, you know, the metals are really important. And this is a theory that I never actually put out, but I have a few theories that take like narrative thematic elements, and one of them is copper. The metals. So when you think about Roger is kind of the conduit for the Great Pirate Era, the golden age of pirates. Gold is used in semiconductors. It's a great conductor for electricity. Silver is not as great, but we saw it be useful. Copper is the worldwide like base for conducting energy, and Luffy is the energy. And so I always liked the idea that Scopper would come back and be like the final catalyst towards something great in regards to the crew, Luffy, Sanji, Zoro, whatever it is. He's the copper conduit. That's the whole world runs on copper, if people didn't recognize that, and it's wrapped in rubber and plastic, and that's Luffy. So but yeah, so let's oh god, you guys super chatted a lot after that. I did not.
I was gonna say there was a lot of super chats. Yeah, I was like, I don't know how we're gonna get through all these.
We're almost done. There's
really?
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, our conversations aside, we're almost through. So Silver Crown, $2 says Roger's base. Who is winning, Frankie or Arthur Lewin? Wait, you eat
Frankie.
Wait. Arthur is from the beginning of the end.
Beginning after the end. Yeah.
Wait, you read that?
I did, and then I dropped it because community sucks.
Ah, dang! I don't interact with the community, but I like it
for multiple reasons. I was reading beginning after the end and enjoying it, and then did like an interview thing with Tapas and interviewed the creator, and it was a lot of fun. And he's really awesome, and the series is obviously great. And his Discord for the community is awesome, but like outside of it, it's just like not a fun community to interact with because I'm so far behind that not only are spoilers running rampant, but then people are like rude when you talk about things that haven't happened or like things that you're theorizing.
Things that are in the light novel.
Like, it's not a theory friendly series. But I'm enjoying it in my own time.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's a great series, and I think Frankie would wipe him.
Wait, easy. Now I'm gonna message you because I don't really have people to message about the beginning and the end, but I'm gonna message you now.
TBAT is really good.
Yeah. So Frankie over, bro. But I mean, I'm not gonna spoil it. Wait, you're caught up now, right? Like with
I'm not completely caught up. No.
Okay, but you're caught up. Like in terms of you're reading the webtoon stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, you're caught up enough to know that that's a wild question to think about.
That is a wild. That's why I say Frankie, because hockey exists, and like there's. If you match hockey with the power system in beginning after the end, there's no question hockey takes. You know? So
yeah, we'll talk about this. I'm excited now. Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, that was a good question though. Yeah, for sure.
Caleb Brown, thank you for super chat. Said both of you are goats of the community. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for watching.
I'm not. I would say I'm like a baby goat right now. I'm a baby goat. I'm not like I'm a boat. There we go. I'm a little boat. I'm floating my way.
Man, come on.
A supernova. See, that's the thing. Roger keeps on telling me like several times at Comic-Con and thing. You're like, your ParVision, act like it. I'm like, what does that mean?
Of course, because that goes back to what I was saying before. It's you don't want to be egotistical or like pretend like, oh, I'm walking in the room and I'm so important. But at the end of the day, you need to understand who you are. It's like you're still ParVision. Like I'm still Roger's base. You know what I mean? Like there is still a certain level of clout. It's just you don't let it go too much to your head. Like know that you're still a person. But of course, you're still ParVision. I'm still Rogers Base. It's like, this is still hype that we're having this conversation, that our communities are overlapping. It's cool, you know.
And the funnier part was this was in a conversation where I literally was asking Roger for his autograph. And
That's true.
I was like,
hey, your hat, that's
hey,
true.
Roger, do you have time for this autograph? And he's just like, give me that hat. You're ParVision. Why wouldn't I sign this hat? I was just like, oh no, Roger, I'm so sorry. I was just
It's so funny.
Yeah, the hat's over there. I forget where I put it. I have to put it somewhere to keep it safe. I'm gonna hang it up
Have it hang on your wall or something in the background with all the.
I'm gonna get a desk
us
behind
signed it,
here
yeah.
to get it nicely put out there.
Cool.
So thank you again for that. That was a good. Oh yeah, it's right here. Thank you.
That was a great
Right
one.
here. Let's see. Roger with the classic. Wait, where is it? Oh. Oh, there we go. How did I miss the? There we go. There we go. The Kirby. Classic.
There you go. That's me.
Which is foreshadowed something else, and we'll talk about that one later. I haven't announced that to people.
Oh yeah.
But let's see, Mr. Bushido.
Oh, hold on, Mike. Phone just went off. What's going on? I had an alarm just go off.
Oh, geez.
Wait. Hold on. Oh no, we're good.
Okay.
I have stuff I got to record today, so I was like, oh, it didn't happen, but no, I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
good. We're good.
Okay. At this point, people are super chatting so that the stream continues. We're gonna get through these. Mr. Bushido with another super chat said, "Live anime adapt still worries me. Bleach example." Yeah, it's always gonna be worrisome, but it's like the thing is, we're gonna worry, but also this is what I said to Matt, and Matt was like, yes, this is true. Where it's like the medium isn't made for us in the first place. Like the medium is made for people who didn't gravitate to manga or anime. So if we don't like it, that doesn't mean that there's flocks of people are gonna come in eventually and be like, I got started on the One Piece live action, and we might giggle a little bit at the start, but I'm gonna accept those people with open arms still.
Of course, yeah. No problem with that at all. Exactly. The more, the better.
Yeah. Eric McKenna with the $20 super chat. Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you. He said, this was the perfect stream to go along with my day. Love both of you guys and just wanted to show some love. P.S. Par, you should ask about the timer. Okay, I'll ask about that. We wanted
timer.
So I do watch parties, and Eric was saying that you have a timer set up, so it's like super good on your stream. And he's like, "Can you ask Roger about that?" And I was just like, "I'll ask
tell you
about
right now." Yeah, I mean, this isn't a secret for sure. Every computer has a clock app on it. Every single computer that runs Windows. If you type "clock" in your search bar on your computer, it'll show up, and it'll pull up 3 different things, or 5 different things actually. It says focus sessions, timer, alarm, stopwatch, world clock. If you go down to the one that says stopwatch, it's literally the timer I use for all my streams.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's just cropped. And then whenever I say 3, 2, 1, go, I hit it. Whenever I pause, I click it again. And that's it. It's built into every single person's computer. And all I do is in Streamlabs, when I put it in the bottom left-hand corner, I have it as like, you know how like there's an output on OBS where it's window output or something? I just do window output. I crop to where it says like minutes and seconds, and that's it. And then I sync it. I'm good to go.
See, I'm too lazy to pause and play and then hit the countdown thing. So what I've been doing is I get the timestamp from the video and I crop that out. So when I pause it, the timestamp shows up. And so, but the only issue is right now in Crunchyroll, it goes away. And so I have to figure out a way to make it permanent.
I know. I've seen some people do that recently with anime reactions. One of my friends, Aru, is reacting to Spy Family right now.
Ooh.
And she did it where it was like the timer's on the bottom and it's transparent in the back, kind of like how I do it. But then it's like clear in the front where the subtitles are. So people can clearly read the subtitles and also see the timer. And I'm like, man, that's a really cool way to go about that. I don't know how to keep the cursor on. Yeah, you could do that so long as there's no audio. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I was like, man, that would be really, really cool. But I couldn't figure it out. And now I'm so used to my routine, having the things transparent in the background, the logo in the corner, the timer. I'm like, I'm not going to change a good thing. I'm used to it.
Okay, so I could have the bottom strip where the subtitles show up, just no audio, and it's fine.
Yeah, there's hold on, I'll give you a good example real quick. I'll pull one up.
Ooh.
Let me see.
All right, fair enough. Thank you, Eric McKenna, for pushing me to ask this question live. I mean, I would have asked him anyways, but I would have forgotten, to be honest, because all the things that we have to.
This is my friend Miss Kylie. She does Chainsaw Man reactions.
Okay.
And I would say, like, look at this. Oh, hold on. I just put it in your.
Okay. I got it.
I'll message it to you. Hold on.
No, I think there's fine.
Oh, there was. Here, I put it in your thing anyway. But the way she does it, where it's like the logo in the corner and then she has the subtitles with like a little chunk of it and then the timer there, a lot of people really seem to like that. And she streamed it like that too. So that's how I'm planning on doing my streams moving forward
Hey, look
for
at
any
that.
other watch through series. Yeah.
Well, we might end up looking similar.
There you go.
And wait, why did I get a survey? I have no idea how to feel about this ad. Okay, let me see. Oh, okay. All right, I'm down. All right, fair enough. We'll get that going then.
Yeah.
Definitely dope. Thank you again, Eric McKenna, for the support.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Time Lord with the bits. He said, "Yo, Par and Roger. Question: Kuma aside, which One Piece character flashback are you looking forward to the most? In my opinion, I want to see Kuzan's or Sakazuki's."
Dragons, no doubt. Dragons. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. In terms of character, because to me, I would have meme answered and said Kaido because I still was very let down by Kaido's.
Yeah.
And I think Rocks obviously encapsulates a lot of characters, but I think we've made enough theories and talked about Rocks enough where I feel like I have a pretty clear idea of how the Rocks thing is going to go, regardless of when it drops in the story, like what characters we're going to see, what revelations will come out of that. Dragon is a completely open book for me. I have no idea what convinced him to create the Revolutionary Army. I want to see time with him and baby Luffy, Luffy's mother, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
Dragon for me is number one.
I was going to answer something different, but I realized it's the same. I was going to say Garp, but because of Dragon. Because I want to see the way Dragon was raised. And so I would imagine we get one way or the other. We learn about Garp and Dragon from each other, essentially.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So
yeah, Garp and Dragon I kind of consider a wrapped one the same way I would like Kaido or Big Mom or whatever with Rocks. So but I can't wait, man. Which is like why I was so happy this chapter. Why you came on literally for a perfect one, because I was losing it. Seeing Dragon and knowing these connections are finally happening with what a big stan I am for the Revolutionary Army. It's great. Yeah.
I'm not going to say future sight, but you guys know what the channel's called. It's called the ParVision. We chose this chapter for a reason. The best chapter.
There you go.
Let's see. So Andrew McCarroll, thank you for the super chat.
Mackerel. That's
Mackerel.
Yeah,
okay, Mackerel.
Yeah,
Okay.
long time viewer in my chat.
I apologize for mispronouncing that. Thank you for correcting.
No. His name is McCarroll, but he used to go by Mackerel, and now I think his account got banned. I'm not sure. Andrew's never told the story, but I think his account probably got banned off YouTube, knowing some of the things he comments sometimes. And then I think he made a new account, or he renamed his account.
That's crazy that you remembered all of that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's a longtime viewer,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if you want to clarify, Mackerel, let us know. Was it your old account that got banned, or did you just rename your account with your real name
Roger's
instead?
out
Let us know.
exposing you too. But he says,
Mackerel's a longtime viewer. It's fine. Yeah.
I bet Kid shows up at the Cross Guild and start a big fight or another Davy back, which is then interrupted by Weevil, three-way fight.
I'm glad it brings this up. I feel very, very strongly, and we talked about this previously, I think Davy back is going to happen with Shanks. I think Shanks, Davy back, at this point, if we're going to get one, that's who it's going to be with.
Yeah.
It makes too much sense for their conflict, like for Luffy and Shanks, fighting with each other, having it in a way that's like somewhat happy and fun, without being like too much of a dark, brooding kind of fight. It's a cool way to have those characters interact with each other. It's a way to actually make the Davy back fight arc important to a lot of people. There's a lot of things they could Davy back over. Oh, and you just said, hey, thanks for the shout out. Yo, you got it, of course. Like I said, longtime viewer. So I think that's what we're going to get. I think the Davy back's going to be them. However,
I agree.
I think Weevil interrupting it would be fire. I would love that.
Yeah, Weevil's a wild card in my opinion, because there's supposed to be a heavy backstory. But going back to the Davy back thing, this is a teaser for a future video. I just realized I never posted it. Was that I think that Shanks and Luffy are going to have a Davy back fight over the Straw Hat, and so if Luffy can't,
I love that. You brought that up on the Film Red video we just did last week.
Oh yeah.
You brought up that because me and Matt and everybody were like, "Oh, that's awesome! I love that idea."
Yeah.
That's what they Davy back over. Yes,
right. And because the other part I was explaining to you at Nintendo Day that day was that I think that the Davy back fight that we learned was an introduction, but it might not be the whole picture of what Davy back's meaning, and Shanks might know it, and so we might get a different perspective of it. But the larger thing is that Davy back fights were to abolish the other crew who lost, and so now that they're both Yonkos, and if Luffy surpassed Shanks, that would be the peaceful way to transition the power. It's like Luffy's supposed to give back the hat, but if that hat's pivotal towards the end game of One Piece, then whoever has the hat is the pirate king, essentially, in some regard.
That's the thing too, is like I could literally see the chapter right now, right?
Yeah.
Where Luffy's crew beats Shanks' crew in the Davy back, and then the chapter ends, and Shanks goes, okay, who are you taking to join your crew? And that's the end of the chapter, and we go into the next chapter, because that would obviously be a huge cliffhanger that would get people talking for a long time, and then the next chapter opens, and Luffy's like, I don't want any of you. The thing I want more than anything is I'm going to keep your hat. And that's, that to me is a fire way to go about that interaction without having to necessarily like ruin any of the dynamics that we've had set up for so long.
And
so
not like
when
force
you brought that
anything.
up, I'm like, bro, that's so good. Yeah.
I gotta post that video then.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. When you brought that up in the video, I thought that was such a great way to resolve that conflict. And then allows Shanks and his crew to be on relatively good terms leading into the final war, and then also allows for that moment too of like Shanks potentially dying at the hands of Blackbeard and Luffy having maybe some realization like I never got the chance to give the hat back, or like something like that along those lines. I just think there's a lot of really cool story possibilities for the Davy back, and I think it would be even cooler if the Davy back happens on Elbaf, because of all the Norse mythology and the Red Force pirates and the theming of their crew. The thing with hockey, sort of doubling down, having two major things. You have a clash with the Yonko alongside the stuff about the Atom Tree and you know the history that went down there and Big Mom's history with it. I just think that Elbaf being a Davy back would be so sick.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be so sick.
And we came up with, I think I hopped in, and not a hopped in, but
Usopp,
I was
like, think about it now. Like, I thought of another thing. Like, Usopp, potentially, like, there's an allied crew with Shanks that's a crew of giants. And Usopp being, like, after one of the Davy backs, all those giants are coming with me. Like, he wins. He's followers of giants that, oh my God, bro.
That's exciting.
He's so sick.
There's so many options, too. There's so many options for this to be a dope thing. And that's what's cool. Taking, like, a lot of people didn't like Davy back fight for a lot of reasons. But looking forward, it's like, I think it's going to be great. Like, if it comes back.
People don't like Davy back because of the humor and where it happened in the story. Yeah. Right after Skypiea, right before Water 7, it's sandwiched in a weird place. But, like, realistically, what it set up, the rules it set up, the Davy Jones locker thing, the lore there, like, the actual serious part of it, Foxy was an idiot, right? So, like, obviously, we had the humorous side of it now. But, like, a serious Davy back fight would be fire. Like, not playing around, not, like, playing a ball game. Not, you know, Foxy with traps on the ship and mirrors and everything, and Afro. Well, though, to be fair, Afro Luffy coming back Gear 5 would be kind of wild. Afro Luffy return in a Davy back fight with Shanks would actually be sick. So I'm not going to say that, but, like,
everything else in between.
Everything else, yeah, right. But Afro Luffy would actually be really clean. I would love to see the return of Afro Luffy.
Yeah, I might even cosplay as Afro Luffy
It'd be
soon.
sick, man.
Yeah,
I'd love it.
Afro Luffy is a good memory for sure. And what I was gonna say, like, a lot of the viewers know what I'm talking about with this, and this is a conversation we didn't end in Nintendo World, or I was explaining the Davy back thing, but really quickly, it was just that. If the Davy back fights were reminiscent of the Olympic Games and like the truce and festivals, and so I have a video talking about that, and the overarching point is that I was thinking that Foxy was symbolized Emperor Nero, who is Roman, who essentially trivialized the Olympic Games. So we did talk about this. I ended with like a part where I explained how he cheated, essentially, which mirrored how the cheating happened in the Foxy arc, where the chariot race and all that stuff. But the other part of it being that I think that Shanks, knowing the true history, might bring it back to the true roots of what the Davy back fight is, and that's exactly what you're talking about, like a more honorable like way to get through some issues, right? Because that's the thing. That's the thing about this would be a way to create, not force tension between Shanks and Luffy in a weird way that doesn't feel natural. And knowing that, have you watched the Uta episodes actually from the anime?
I actually haven't yet. No, I didn't get the opportunity. You guys told me what happens when we were at the Film Red thing. Like, you filled me in on the few things that I would have missed. Partially, yeah. But I'm still going to get a chance to watch them eventually. I just haven't yet.
Yeah, I would watch them, because that actually goes into next question by Andrew Mackerel. And this is, to contrast a good idea with a crazy goofy idea, is he asked, what if Kobe is the grandson of Rocks? Your opinion. And I just want to hit you with, if you watch the Uta episodes, something I said in my live reaction was, I was joking, but then I was like, wait a second, this could be a thing where, you know how Uta is like white hair, red hair, right? And it's like Shanks' daughter, right? Mm-hmm. We're not gonna talk about spoilers, but a lot of people have been wondering going into Film Red, biological or not biological. That aside, it's like it has the red hair, right? But if you were to have a red and white hair mix, you'd get pink hair. So I was joking that Kobe, we don't know Kobe's parents, and it's super random. Okay. He's in East Blue. Okay. Kobe is Shanks' kid. And if you watch the Uta episodes, there's a scene where they inserted like a really weird synthesis from Helmeppo saying that Shanks, there's some connection between Shanks and Kobe from Marineford. They replayed Marineford, and then Kobe was just like, I don't know. And then they had Shanks and Kobe's face go back and forth, and their facial structure, their hair is the same. I was like, wait, hold on. Is Kobe actually Shanks' kid? And it's like, I was like, no, that'd be so crazy.
I think the opportunity, if they would have gone through all of Film Red and all this stuff with Shanks' daughter and this lost child and stuff and not brought that up.
But this was this was the specific episode. So they did 1029, 1030. And then
what scene is that? What episode?
It's in the special, I think it's called Special 4. It's on Crunchyroll or something like that. It's the one that was specifically made for Film Red. So 1029 and 1030 are like the ways the story leads into that episode. And that's where they gave Film Red details there. And there's a scene where they replay Marineford, and then they have the Kobe thing. You guys can go back in my watch party. I labeled it.
I will. I'll watch it. Yeah. Wow.
Where I was just like looking at it, I was like, they're not related. Why are we talking about this right now?
Yeah.
But like, you know, we see with Ace and Roger, they look alike. Garp and Luffy, they look alike. Odin and Momo. And I was like, no, Kobe doesn't even need parents. But like, if we're doing this, I don't know if I'd like that, but it would be kind of cool. But like, how do we explain that? Are we going to explain that? I don't know. It was again, you guys know I have a bunch of ideas that I never even like put a video to. But if you guys tune into my streams, that's where I just let load even the crazier theories than the ones you guys see on my channel.
I'm just like looking at screen caps and I discovered like people talking about it. This is so weird.
Yeah, right?
This is so weird.
So I'm glad I brought that up. It's like, what if that happens?
I don't think that's going to be the case, but that's still...
Like it was literally like them standing in front of a ship.
Yeah.
Here, let me see if I could pull it up for the viewers too.
That is wild.
Kobe's Uta episode. Let me see. What did you Google to find it?
Shanks Kobe Film Red filler.
Shanks.
And then I typed in Shanks Kobe Film Red filler son.
Film Red filler son. No, wait, this is a larger conversation that people are having.
This is definitely something people are talking about, yeah.
Nice.
Shanks' kid.
See, this is how you know how little I put thought to it, but it was just a visceral reaction to the point where it's like, maybe there's something there. I don't know.
The facial structure is definitely weird.
Yeah.
And then I was just scrolling down reading people's tweets about it, and I was like, what the heck? Yeah, with the hair, the way it's parted, everything, like with the hat and it is weird.
Yeah. I'm not going to click on the spoiler stuff. Yeah. We'll go back. Weird. But let's see what
real quick though, I got like maybe 10 more minutes.
Yeah, we're closing out. We're closing out. Perfect.
I was gonna say I wanted to give you a heart out because I gotta do Hunter x Hunter still.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, we ended up going another hour and a half longer than I thought we were gonna go. So I'm like, you said that was gonna happen though. So and we just did a 2.5 hour stream prior to this one. So we've been talking. We did like a 6-hour chat today, Parv. Man.
And I hope everyone. I mean, it didn't feel that long to be honest.
It's been fun. It's been super fun.
Yeah. That's sometimes.
It's been a great way to spend my morning for sure.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, just like I did.
Absolutely.
I see it a bit, Time Lord. I'm gonna skip that one for now, and we'll end off on the conversation there because it'll be a good way to, end the stream. Insatiable Hunger with the $5 super chat said, Egghead is peak. We got lightsabers. Hopefully we get some color modifications so we can get the Sith versus Jedi. All Vice Admirals should have this. We were talking about that. If you want to tune into Roger's Base's reaction, he went full, like, not even full. He gave us the cliff notes to the full picture. I would even argue that you and Matt B should revive and make a whole video about that.
I'm down.
Yeah, like that, the revival of the Roger's Base theories. That would be dope. That's what I also like doing because I went
The
to like
lightsabers, when you were talking about the black blade thing and cutting the light, I'm like, oh man, that being foreshadowing for Kizaru.
Yeah.
But then, like, I think there's 0% chance we leave this arc without some type of special Star Wars-esque color spread, kind of like the color spread we were talking about earlier with the video games.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see something with lightsabers at some point.
100%.
That's like one thing Oda's talked about on multiple occasions is how much he loves Star Wars and how like big of a Star Wars buff he is. So I feel like if we're doing an arc with lightsabers, there's no way that's not going to become some type of color spread or some type of thing. So yeah.
Right. Insatiable Hunger gave another super chat, but I see a chat from Dongo Chuan. Dongo Chuan, amazing name. He asked, where did you buy the Luffy figure? It looks amazing. I didn't buy it. I was gifted it by a viewer. Dan Demand. Shout outs to Dan Demand. And he wants to give me another one.
Demand.
And I was like, no, you don't have to do that. And he shipped it, boxed it. I was like, okay, next time, like, I have to pay for the shipping. This isn't fair. Like, everyone compliments it, and I just feel like every time, like, I have to do something for Dan Demand. Yeah. So shout out to Dan. Insatiable Hunger with his another super chat. Thank you. He says, I'm hoping 1 out of 7 Vegapunks survive. We need a mad scientist for the final war. If not, would y'all like some Elon Musk memory chips for Frankie?
Elon Musk memory chips. What do you mean?
Oh, so have you heard of Neuralink from Elon Musk?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, memory chips, what?
Yeah.
Look, I mean, yeah, Frankie being like a mad scientist with all the knowledge of Vegapunk would be sick. I'd be cool with that. You know? But I also don't think that's the direction they're taking Frankie. We were talking about flashbacks and things that we would like to know before the end of the series.
Yeah.
I still kind of want to know what's up with his parents.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's something I would like to know a little about.
So something that I think Sai brought to my attention. So we actually in 1063 got a title card for this recycling dog, Recycali. And we actually got a title card for it, which is like, it could have just been like a detail that we keep in mind, but we got a title card, and that felt significant.
The reason why they're doing it is they're eventually going to make merchandise, and so they need to have a name for that thing for merchandise. So they're like, well, here's the title card, Recycali.
So he referenced, I forget what show, but he was saying like the mad scientist ended up putting their memory into this random animal dog thing, which was like essentially this. And I was like,
so funny.
So Vegapunk might escape and become this dog.
Inside the Recycali? That'd be super funny.
And then that was the joke at the end of that whole conversation, that this Recycali got shouted out because he's the new pet. Because at the end of this chapter, Chopper won't be the pet, hopefully. And he'll get the final respect that he has. And this will take the place. We'll get a Recycali.
Recycali for Straw Hat. There you go.
That is the straw hat theory that I got. The Recycali for straw hat.
I'll back that one up. That one's funny. Okay, I'll take it.
So we got another one for Andrew. Okay, so these are the last super chats because we're cutting off the stream.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. I
so
gotta go.
If you guys super chat later, I'll get to it on another stream. I'll definitely remember that. So thank you guys again for all the support. He said, sadly, I don't like Gon from Hunter x Hunter. Well, this is a transition to Hunter x Hunter stuff. He is like the Forrest Gump of anime protagonists. Come talk to me in Roger's Discord if you want to discuss. So Andrew Mackerel used this as a shout out to join Roger's Discord, which you guys should do.
You go.
If you're not in my Discord, should definitely join there, and the worlds will collide in the future for sure. It was nice meeting you, Andrew Mackerel. I gotta get that right. But also looking forward to see what kind of comments got you banned, because I got a few of those chatters in my YouTube too. I'm like,
no, he didn't get banned in my chat. He also clarified that it wasn't that he had to make a new account.
He just swaps the names.
I was gonna say yeah.
It's just fun. It's a funny story.
He just changed his names. Yeah.
So Time Lord asked with the bits. He said, if you could pick any character from One Piece to be your friend in the real world to hang out with you, who would you pick? And he said, for me, it'd be Sanji. So what's your answer to that, Roger?
Ooh. Nami, because I'm friends with Emily in real life. So Nami. I mean, that's easy. That's easy. There you go.
They're going to say you're flexing so hard with that answer. You know
that's a good answer.
That was the same thing when Emily Rudd followed me back.
What would be another good answer? I don't know, other characters. I would say of all the characters in One Piece, if I had to choose one that I think I would be really good friends with. It's tough because there's so many good characters.
I think Nami was a right answer for you. I'll tell you why after.
Okay, I actually don't think it would be Nami though. I think it would be Hattori.
The pigeon?
I think it'd be the pigeon. Yeah. He's loyal. He'd be fun to hang out with.
Okay. Wait, let me tell you why the Nami thing. It was because the way when I was saying like you're like Luffy, and in the story Nami is very like reels Luffy back into like certain situations, and I feel like at when we were out and you were like bouncing off the walls, you really really enjoy you almost made it a point where like this is why I have you in my life, because I need
that's what Megan does. Anytime we're at events together, she does the same thing. She'll always just
it makes sense.
So it's good. It makes sense actually. That's a good answer. I like it.
Yeah, that question is hard for me. I feel like I genuinely gravitate towards Laws, like characters that are like Law.
I think Law would be too cool for me. I love Law as a character.
Yeah.
But I couldn't see Law being a fun friend to hang out with.
Yeah, see, my enjoyment of hanging out with Laws is like the same thing where it's like when the Alliance came in and he's like trying to act like this is an alliance, and then like I would tie Chopper to his head and make him like feel goofy.
That is fun.
Yeah. So I love
Law. I don't know, man. Law would be like I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Like I have so many serious friends also where they're like trying to be serious with me, and they respect like intellect or whatever, and then I just throw out the goofiest thing, and then just like, how am I associated with this man? And I love that experience, and that's like literally Luffy and Law, and I just find myself gravitating towards like a lot of people who are just like, I love this guy and he's crazy, but like, and then they can't help but feel embarrassed and out of their position, because they themselves would never put themselves in that position. And I'm like, here's this position.
I'm thinking about it. I would actually say Brooke is a good alternative for me too. I think Brooke and I would be great friends. Yeah. Singing and like just joking around and going fun places. I think Brooke would be great. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. I'm glad. I'm glad.
He also got good one-liners. Like he says certain things and I'm like, man, if I was in the One Piece world, I would say like that line about calling Big Mom like young lady, that was peak.
Beautiful.
Whole Cake Island Brooke is like the best Brooke has ever been, bro. That's like Brooke is the MVP still to this day of Whole Cake Island, dude. So many good things that Brooke did. Brooke, like when he went in and he had that standoff against Big Mom stealing the poneglyph. Brooke when he breaks the Mother Carmel photo.
Mask, yeah.
Everything, man. Brooke is the GOAT of Whole Cake.
Yeah. Definitely. There's so many. I feel like that's another thing. Given the way we are too, I feel like there's a lot of characters we just inherently like or incorporate in our lives, and it's just like similar to the One Piece thing. So we ended up having a lot of friends that reflect. Right now, the flavor of the day is Law. But exactly.
But I've said this since day one. Law's always been my favorite character. Because I even mentioned that in my review a couple chapters ago when Law first shows up as female Law. I'm like, not only was I blown away that was made canon, but also the fact that like Law really, since Dressrosa, has been one of my favorite characters.
Right.
And I liked him from the get-go when we first met him in Sabaody. Yeah. And the fact that he's so involved in the story to this point, even after Dressrosa, like being involved in Wano Country, being the one to take down Big Mom, having this fight with Blackbeard now, he's just taking W after W after W. And when Law shows up, things are about to get good. It's always hype when Law shows up.
Yeah, it is.
You can attest to this. There were very few moments where the audience popped off during our film Red premiere screening. Law showing up was one of the pop-off moments.
Yeah. I popped off there too. That was a good one because that one was a fun one. Oh, that's what's good about this movie. But we hit the 4:30 mark, so I want to be respectful, and we'll close out the stream. But know, guys, that if you guys tuned in late, this will be posted on the ParVision VOD channel, my second channel. It gets uploaded very quickly. Second thing, this is definitely not the last conversation me and Roger have, I definitely don't think this is the last time, or I'll definitely be seeing Roger in the future. Hopefully, anytime he's in New York, make our way through.
Japan, maybe too. Yeah, I do plan on going back to New York. I mean, that's some place that I'm there for work at least once a year. So it's like, we'll hang out for sure.
So I want to.
Because of COVID, but prior to that, I was there all the time.
Yeah. Stay away from the. COVID's still there, and people are just accepting it.
But I mean, now everything's like loosening up. So now I came to do NYCC, and so I'll be back for sure.
Right. And so with that, I want to thank all the viewers from Rogers Base's channel from coming out. I want to thank my viewers. Thank you for participating. I will be looking through a lot of these comments. You guys don't even understand. I remember some names. That's why it impressed me when Rogers was like, yeah, I know all of these guys. I'm like, ooh, I respect that.
When I see a name that I recognize who's in the chat constantly, I could rattle off like 20 or 30 regular viewers that are on my channel that I'm like right away, oh, okay, here's the regulars.
So thank you guys again for listening to The Voice of All Things with your host ParVision, and thank you for being one of the greatest Buster Call guests, Rogers Base.
I'm glad we had fun. That was good. I mean, I knew it was going to be a fun stream, and I'm just happy that you reached out to say, oh, let's do this collab thing, and it lined up perfectly. Like, we couldn't have chosen a better chapter to do it. When I was like, dude, instead of just coming on, like, we'll do 2 streams in a row, come on the reaction beforehand. It worked out great. We had lots to talk about.
Even with that plan, we didn't expect for like a total of 5-6 hours.
Like, because you booked me for this prior to me leaving, even for Chicago.
Yeah,
we planned on doing this, so I was like mid travels, and when you mentioned it, I'm like, that'll be my first full weekend back after everything. So it just worked out. And then us hanging out in New York, and then having the Film Red thing on top of all of that prior to even doing this, it just couldn't have been better. Yeah, worked out perfect.
And so we're definitely going to be seeing more. And I think Rogers shouted out the thing he's most excited for in the coming week is his L stream on Wednesday.
Wednesday's going to be fun. I have my Bon Clay costume at the ready already. Reagan's going to do my makeup. I'm going to be I have a whole bunch of stuff planned, like things I'm going to watch that I hate that I'm going to experience for the first time. I think it's going to be a pretty long stream. I'm probably going to finish JoJo Part 4 because I'm notoriously known for hating that. I might watch some My Hero. We might read some Kingdom. It's going to be a good time. People are going to roast me. I'm going to bring people in on a Discord call. I have plans for like donation roast messages. It's going to be good. So yeah, it's going to be a fun stream.
And so I'm going to say one last thing, but before that, when I end the stream, I'm going to take us straight to the Hidden Island because he's doing a 12-hour one-man reverie, and he's bringing in a bunch of really big content creators there. I think Brago is going now, or Jay is around now, so we'll be tuning in there. I'll be there to close out the stream with Hidden at 10 p.m. 12. So there's more of me and there's more of Roger. I guess Roger's gonna go on Hunter. You guys go there and then come back.
I have 20 minutes to go make another cup of tea and grab something to eat really quickly, and then I'm gonna be live on Twitch in literally 30 minutes from now, doing my live reaction on Hunter, and then I'll be done for the day. We're gonna upload that to my VOD channel. We're gonna be good to go. Yeah.
So you guys know where to go. You guys know where we'll be. I just want to end the stream saying thank you again, Roger, for all the kind words, for being so accepting and friendly, and just, I don't know, like you give me a lot of confidence, but also inspiration too. Like that's why I'm in the streams. I learn so much.
To talk to. So absolutely, dude. Anytime. It's been an absolute pleasure.
So
it was very sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, there's no amount of words that I could say, because I learned a lot from you, and I those are things that we'll talk about later, and then we'll have so many conversations to have. So looking forward to that, guys. Looking forward to seeing more of you guys in the streams, on my videos. Make sure to comment. Go check out our channels. Go check out the earlier collab. See you guys soon. Have a good one.